This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the blustery sunset safari today. I was going to give you the date, but I've forgotten entirely what the date is, so I think we'll just stick with the standard issue greeting. We've got Senzo on camera today. Senzo, show us what you've brought to eat. No, show us. Show the camera. There we are. Health meal for Senzo today on drive, combined with a glass of evil brown cola. My name is James Henry. It's marvellous to have you with us today. I'm sitting on this termite mound scanning the landscape as I suppose a cheetah might scan the landscape. I'm not going to jump down from here and course after a steenbok and devour it raw, because I don't really like raw meat. But one can understand why it is that a cheetah and a leopard might want to sit on a termite mound like this. Please talk to us during the course of the show using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, otherwise the chat stream on YouTube. We will be having a school drive later on today at 5:15 Central African time. Whereupon the bushwalk, taken by Taylor today, will go into the tent. And, well, Steve will remain out. He is driving today. And a big shout-out, of course, to Emma, who is making her debut as a vision mixer today in the final control. I will tell you that Emma's hair is as red as Kirsten's, which means that we have got double red trouble directing us today. We must be on our best behavior. I imagine the hellfire that will rain down on us should we not perform to our best today will be, well, very uncomfortable indeed when we get back to camp. Right, on that note, before I say something that might incriminate me, let's go across to Stephen, who's got a bird.
A bird with not a red head, but a bit of a red beak. A beautiful African grey hornbill. And not often you get to see such a nice shot of their beak like that. And it's fantastic how the colours come through. The yellow, the grey, the red. Beautiful, beautiful. And there's some of you out there, you know who you are, who love to see this bird. And I've been trying for some time to get a really good shot of one. And there he's just playing with us now. Oh, we caught something. Wow, look at that. He's wiping it off. It looks a caterpillar. Yes, it is. It's a hairy caterpillar. And what do you do with the hairs of a caterpillar? Well, you wipe them off on the branch, obviously, before putting them in your mouth. There we go. Oh, that looks tasty. Very, very useful, that beak. Very sort of pliable, like a sushi chef with, oh, look at that. And that is what we call bird sushi. Fantastic. You got to see a kill, folks, live on the internet. And my name is Steve Folkovich. Welcome again. And I'm sure James has said hello, and I'm saying hello as well. Joined by Fergus on the vehicle. We were out on a very windy day in Djuma in the Sabi Sands, and you just got to see a kill live. Let's go back to the action there, Ferg, because it's all happening. The African grey hornbill is moving through the tree. He's all over the place. He's just jumped up at the top now. And he's moving through the red bush willow sort of land now, and there's lots of caterpillars up here. Lots of butterflies have laid their eggs. And all sorts of things are crawling around in the undergrowth and on the trees that he is searching very deliberately for. Sharon, you'd like to see and hear a southern ground hornbill? Well, I would like to show them to you too. They generally only call at 3, 4-ish in the morning, very, very early. And I have not yet seen one on Djuma. You must have, Ferg?
I haven't, indeed. Not for a while.
Ferg's seen them, but not for some time, he says. You can tell by the way that the bird's moving. He's not throwing the branch around. That is the wind, ladies and gentlemen. There he goes, up again. He's having a very good time jumping through the branches, having a very good look as he goes. His wing a little bit cocked there. He's being very agile. You don't see the hornbills being this agile normally. Having a proper scan of the branches, looking for any insect that might be secreting itself around. Ghost side of they do. They look very comical. I haven't spent time with a great hornbill like this in some time, and there he goes. wind in his feathers to the next bush somewhere else, no doubt to search for some more insects to feed his belly. It's hard going this time of year for insects, but these birds, they spend most of their time here and they find plenty. Well, I'm not the only one out. Obviously, you've met James, and Taylor McCurdy's on foot. You'd like to say good afternoon.
Hello everybody, good afternoon, welcome. Thank you for joining us today on this wonderful walking safari. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian, who has a moustache. We've decided that if you want to be French, you must have a moustache. That was one of the very many conversations we've had today. Anyways, it's a beard? No, but we said if you are French, you must have a moustache. So I might become French today too. I'll see if I've still got I don't know what accent that was, Kirsty. We've already had this conversation this morning about how I mustn't quit my day job as a guide because A, I can't sing. Should I sing the Spice Girls song for all of you so it can stay in your head? And then the other thing was I can't do accents. Those are the two things I'm not capable of doing, and probably a whole lot of other things too. Anyways, something we are hoping to do today is find a leopard. Is going to be the goal, or at least leopard tracks, so we can put either James or Steve on them, and then hopefully they'll be able to find them. So this morning, I didn't even get to tell you, Tinga Banana, aka Tingana, the Duke of Duma, whatever you'd like to call him, he was sitting at Tamboti Dam. Now, Tamboti Dam is just in Buffelshoek, on the boundary of Buffelshoek boundary. So not too far away, probably about a kilometre, maybe a kilometre and a half from where we are now. And we're going to head in that direction, because he's a sneaky cat. Apparently he was very fat and laying flat and out in the open, but I know him. He sometimes likes to move around during the day. So we thought, he doesn't seem to spend too much time in Buffelshoek, because we know that that's Gajima, who's another male leopard. That's his territory. So he just goes in there to remind him that, you know, he also lives around here and he must be respectful of his elders, essentially. And I think he's probably going to come back this way. He may have already crossed. It has been very windy, so it's going to be difficult to try and age the tracks today, but we will do our best. And then, I don't know, maybe some elephants, if they decide to show up. Everybody seems to be either having a drink at Galago Pan or Vuyatela Pan, so they're pretty close, and we won't be too far away. And maybe we'll get a chance to see that. But we'll also be going into the tent a little bit later, so we can't move away too far. Anyway, we'll keep marching towards the boundary and hope to find some signs of something. Off we go to James to see where he is now.
I'm nearing the northern boundary, and where we have found some impala, rams, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now walking behind a bush, which is very inconvenient. They're all adults, and they have formed a bachelor herd again. Relatively peaceful friends these days with the cessation of the rut. Let me go forward a bit. Hi guys. Hi there. Hi. Nice to see you. See, I'm just calming them with my gentle voice. They will be slightly skittish, of course, because of the wind that's blowing, and because impala are generally skittish and terrified of everything. I was reading that interesting book called Why Zebras Don't Have Ulcers the other day, and although these animals do appear to be stressed all the time, they are not. They go through brief bouts of extreme stress, but then they don't continue in that stressed fashion. And so their bodies don't exhibit the same problems as ours do from extended stress, because when we put stress on ourselves, of course, it often goes for weeks at a time. You've got a deadline you have to meet, you're about to be fired for something you've done wrong, we put family stressors on ourselves. And those stresses, it means we secrete stress hormones continuously, and our bodies are simply not designed to do that. They're much like these guys. They're designed to deal with short bouts of adrenaline, short kind of terrifying experiences, and then, in theory, everything should calm down again. But our modern lifestyles don't always allow for that, and so we have these diseases of stress. I think that's quite interesting. Indeed, it is very, very windy. I've forgotten who said it was windy. Who was it, Kirsten? Sitting Bull. Ah, yes, from the grave, Sitting Bull. You tell us that it is windy. Yes, it is indeed windy. I see that whatever part of the ether you currently now reside in has a fairly effective weather bureau. Good. Is this a question from Jemay? From who? Jomer. You say the rut is over. When will the lambs come? Well, the gestation period's about 6.5 months, and we would expect the lambs sometime at the very end of November into the beginning of December. That's when we'd expect them to drop, and all of them within sort of 2 weeks of each other. Now we're easing up to what used to be known as Sydney's Dam, and is now Sydney's Mud Wallow. I think Taylor coined that. There's absolutely nothing going on. Hello? Nope. So what we'll do is we'll continue in a easterly direction towards Beefleshoek Dam, and we'll see if we don't find little Claramba there where we found her earlier today. But before we do that, let us have a look at the marvellous Birchall's starling. Very glorious colours today. You can see purples and blues and blacks and indigos and violets and all sorts of synonyms for purple, blue and black. He's a very splendid fellow. Just looking around for the last of the insects that will survive here, because that's what he'd like to be eating. But obviously he's not going to be eating too many insects at this time of the year. He'll have to make do with the odd seed. I'm actually quite interested. I think I'm going to check for you. I keep doing this, but I'm going to do it again. Let's just check what his winter forage is. Winter forage. Birchall starling. Come on, Henry, don't be so slow. Kirsten thinks he eats soup. I don't think that's true, Kirsten. I think that's ridiculous. Oh, sometimes he eats vertebrates like mice and sometimes fruit. I would hesitate. I suppose maybe a very baby mouse he might be able to get into. Let's get a little bit more detailed. Feeds largely on the ground, yes, thank you very much. Scavenging at picnic sites and game reserves, well, this chap's not going to be able to do that. Eats insects, yes, we know that. Particularly locusts, not many of them around now. Termites, yes, he could still eat termites. He'll go to termite mounds and find them, and find the harvested termites actually working on a day like today. Also centipedes, and even small vertebrates such as mice. Also berries, fruit and flowers of acacia trees. So this time of year he'll have a fairly catholic diet. He'll eat old and rotting berries, I imagine, some seeds, if he can find them, perhaps the odd last flower. But it'll be a little bit of a tough time, I think, for the Birchall's starling from a diet point of view. I can't believe it, but Steve is copying me today.
Yes, well, James, you've got to copy the best, don't we? We've got an impala ram, but the reason we stopped is because there's a bird there hitching a ride which is actually related to the starlings, and not a starling itself, but they are quite similar in all sorts of ways. And there's a red-billed oxpecker, and they live in cavities in trees just like starlings do, and they feed on insects, although most of the insects they feed on are actually ticks. They will also feed on other insects that are flushed by impalas and animals as they move through. And the red-billed oxpecker normally is found on more sort of short-haired animals, or should I say smaller animals as well, and they do a bit of a combing of the feather of the fur rather than a plucking. I wonder if you can hear him there. He's shouting away, looking for his family. He seems to be the only oxpecker that's found some impala. And it is still very windy, and all the animals are quite skittish, and I don't think his voice is being heard by his fellows. He's basically saying, I've got blood here, I've got blood, I've got blood here. They reckon an oxpecker can feed on 400 engorged ticks a day, or 1,200 to 1,500 nymphs in one day. Can you imagine? You know, we get the odd tick bite from time to time and we think we've had it hard. But the animals out here get completely covered in ticks. There we go. The rest of the herd hiding in the shelter there. You can tell by the guarries that are moving around that it is very windy. And animals get quite skittish in this weather because it's very hard to hear the approach of a predator. We're very close to where we found Shadulu yesterday morning. She would walk straight past this area on her meanderings to the north. They are a very beautiful antelope, impala. Very overlooked, really. There's lots to talk about. So we could keep you here for hours, but instead we're going to go over to Taylor McCurdy, who's got something small in the sand.
You won't believe it, a hoho. Now, hoho is the word we use to describe all varieties of insects here in South Africa, except butterflies and moths. We still call those butterflies and moths, but everything else is a hoho. Now, do you still have it there? Yeah. It's an interesting little critter. I think it's one of the assassin bugs. Look how quick it is. And the reason why it's just crawling over all the leaves and the grass now, the reason why I think it's one of the assassin bugs is because it doesn't have big sort of buggy eyes like the weevils do. And it's also got that very long proboscis and quite a sort of flattened abdomen. But I'm not certain. Maybe if some of you got a screenshot, you can share it with me and then I can have a look in my insect book when I get home later. But I think it was definitely one of those. Sure. Not a fan of an assassin bug, let me tell you. They bite. And it's one of the most painful things I've ever experienced. So we won't be handling that one. Although I'm pretty sure if I just had it on my hand, it would be fine. The reason why I got bitten was when I was in the Mara and we're out shining lights, searching, obviously all the bugs flying, and obviously one landed in the car, and it somehow landed on my leg and then went up my shorts, so I panicked, as you can imagine, because you know I'm very dramatic, and I was flailing around. Craig was laughing at me. He thought it was the funniest thing. We'd also just seen a leopard too, so you know we were quite excited. Everybody was happy, and this thing is crawling up, and I'm trying to, and every time I try and swat it, it obviously bites me, so it bit me on my thigh twice, and then I somehow got it onto my hand, and it bit me somewhere over here. And for weeks and weeks I had a mark, and it was still really painful around the sort of bite site. So don't handle one of those. They're not particularly nice at all. Now, we've actually covered Kirsten. Kirsten thinks she's so funny today. Emma, word of advice when you do start directing, try not be as hilarious as Kirsten, or as hilarious as Kirsten thinks she is. Also, what does one do when they vision mix? Because that sounds like a DJ to me. Hey, waka 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 wah. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to carry on walking now. So we're making good ground, and we're getting slowly but surely getting towards the boundary. Is my shoe broken that I don't know what's going on with me today. I'm trying to walk, and as I'm walking, for some reason, it's like I've got like a bit of an instep or something now. Just checking the soles. They're still there. Feels weird. Maybe I need to make sure I put one foot in front of the other properly. And so yeah, so we're still going to head towards the boundary and hopefully get there. Robin! I'm very happy to say this, that there aren't many prickly pears around, because that's what you want me to find. But there are one or two little bits. I don't know if we'll be able to find one. We'll see. If we see any along the way. But any of them that we do find, they must get chopped out. They must go. They cannot stay here. They are invasive species. Shige, So you get captured there. Yeah. Sebastian got captured by a tree. Didn't want him to go anywhere. Now this is interesting. Come look here. You see that, obviously, that long line. There's ants, and there is a slight conical pit just over here. Now, this is from an ant line. I wonder when this ant line was moving. I wonder if it's been moving during the day. See, there's one there. And then, sorry, Seb, I'm going to show you another one. That might be the fresh one. I'm not actually sure. That might be its new little pit that it's created. Perhaps something disturbed its mount. So I suppose if something does disturb its little conical pit, it's obviously going to have to move around and create another one. But very clever, because look how close it is to the entrance of this ant sort of nest that is here. So that is a very, very clever route because, well, hopefully the ants will get trapped in that little conical sand pit. And it has a better chance, of course, if it's made its nest right outside here. But I'm not sure. Very interesting. Lots of ants running around. We'll be trying to collect the last couple of things before the light. Now, there are a few of them that are... See, there's another entrance over there. They're all coming in and out of that. So I think they are doing a last bit of foraging with a little bit of light. Can you believe it? We're seeing insects today. My goodness. How fantastic. Wonderful. Okay, good luck, little ant line. Good luck, little ants. Right, we're going to keep going in that direction. We haven't seen any leopard tracks yet, but you never know. We could see some. No? Do you have some? Sorry. No, Herbie, oh, can we show you? I'm sorry, Kirsty hates it when I do this, but you know, I haven't done it for a while, so when I start linking and then keep her here. Ha 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 ha. See, there's a leopard track. Thank you, Herbie. Herbie pointed me. So this is where Tingana has come from. This is where he was, and he went that way. So he's just been hiding around camp this entire time. Okay, for realsies now, though, we're going to follow these tracks and see the route that he walked. Off you go to Steve.
Good luck, Taylor. I hope you find the Duke. Where is he? Whereabouts are those tracks? Do we need to come and give you guys a hand? Well, I'm sure they'll shout in due course. We are down now on the south. We've come all the way around from the west. We're going to move towards Treehouse Dam, see if anything is hanging in and around the watering hole. Good spot to look for things. But it's going to be a difficult afternoon to find animals because of this wind. But that's okay. We will cover the entire area twice if we have to. Because, you know, anything could be moving. The chances are most of your prey animals are going to be sort of hiding down in the sort of depressions just like yesterday. But your predators could still be moving around in search of them. But even they will go down into the depressions, because what this wind does is it also takes off a lot of your body heat. It actually is uncomfortable to be in the wind. And if any of you experienced that before, it's not actually nice to just be sitting in the wind all day. If you're really hot, this is magical. But no one's really hot this time of year. And staying in the wind is actually quite a loss to energy. So they might move to drink, do a bit of feeding, but they'll keep down into those little depressions where the wind is far less. Of course, looking for tracks as we go. Well, it seems before it flies off, let's go see what bird James has found.
Well, what we've found is the southern white-crowned shrike. And he's struggling to hold on to his perch there on the marula tree. One of the very few, well, they're not very few, about half the shrikes stay here during the winter time and half disappear off to warmer climes. Because I guess, well, there's insufficient competition for him to leave, really. Now, I'm just looking again here. I've become fascinated by what these things eat. Almost entirely invertebrates, it says. That's not surprising for a shrike. They have, of course, that tooth on the front of their bills that allow them to break through the carapace of things like locusts. We'll just see if we can get a little bit of a list of what they eat. At perch, prey too large will be swallowed whole, usually held in one foot, torn apart with bill and eaten in pieces. So that beak of theirs with a little tooth enables them to almost behave like a raptor would. So if you've ever watched an eagle feeding, either live or on foot, or not on foot, or on TV, you've seen them use that hooked, sharp bill to pull open the flesh and eat it piece by piece. And that's what this fellow does here. Apparently it may hang upside down by 1 foot when hunting. That's quite interesting. There we go. Caterpillars, beetles, millipedes. One record of them eating berries. But they don't like the vegetables. Tiffany, the cuckoos will come back. Probably the Diedrich's cuckoo will return. I'm guessing somewhere around... Ooh, that's normally the first one we hear. Sometime in September. I can check for you exactly. I think he's the first one back. Let me have a quick look. Cuckoo. Search. Cuckoo, Diedrich's cuckoo. They will be back September. Yeah. A lot of them come back in September. It just seems to be that the red-chested sound, we hear him a bit later, but they'll all be back around about September sometime. Alrighty, on we go, along the Beefleshoek cut line. For those of you who are perhaps new viewers, to the left-hand side is north. That's Beefleshoek, where we may not go. To the right-hand side is Djuma, where we do go and are most of the time. If we're not on Chitwa, we're on Djuma. If we're not on either of those, we're trespassing and should be arrested. Here are some more shrikey type birds. Now, some of you trying to confirm what shrike that was. It was the southern white-crowned shrike. And there we have some helmet shrikes in that tree there. A large flock of helmeti shrikes. Can you see them? Have they gone? That's the white-crested helmet shrike. There we are. Is it? Yeah. What is... Yes, it is, the white-crested helmet shrike. Communal nesting shrikes, or helmet shrikes, one of two species that we get here, the other one being the Retz's helmet shrike, which is black with a red bill. Used to be called a red-billed helmet shrike, but the ornithologists decided to make it more confusing, because that's what they're born to do, and they called it the Retz's helmet shrike. Possibly one of their number, Mr. Retz, was put out by the fact that they weren't named after him. I thought that was a mongoose. There's a little mongoose right there. Can you see him, Senzo? Can you see them? Oh, wonderful. Shall we stay here, Kirsten? A little dwarf mongoose. Hello. What's your name? Very nice. That was the dwarf mangusta, as Herbert likes to call it. I'm just checking my radio. And now I think we will carry along here. And apparently we're going across to Taylor to see if she has something interesting to tell us.
I do. Herbie's not being very nice to me today. I'll tell you why he's not being very nice to me, because he's just made me walk through all of that grass over there. See that stuff? It's tall. It's like almost up to my hips. And he knows that I'm allergic to grass. He's not looking. Just now he was looking at me. He was laughing at me. I'm just joking. Herbie couldn't be nasty even if he tried. Anyways, so I'm going to be very itchy just now. It'll be fun. I'm really starting to itch. We're almost at the boundary now. So that's where we're about to complete our first goal. to see if Tingana has come back this way. I have seen a vehicle also just in the distance was driving up and around. So I think they're going to check to see if Tingana is still laying in the same spot. I doubt it though, because it didn't sound like he was tucked under a tree or anything like that. It kind of sounded like he was just laying out in the open. So we'll see what's happening and if there's anything interesting this side. Apparently Rexon was just saying on the radio now that there's been lots of elephants around, so that's good news for us. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to find some. Although what we would normally do to try and hear where the breeding herds of elephants are is actually stop and listen. But with the extra wind today, not going to be ideal, that's for sure. Not going to be ideal at all. Just checking to see if there's anything interesting on the floor. Any tracks along those lines. But I think everybody has driven here, so they've squashed all the footprints if there were any elephants that came around. Yeah, bushwalks are getting tough now. Where are all these insects? Ah, it seems as though James and Steve are doing a birding day. Maybe we'll try and jump in too. Let's go and see if Steve can get the fork-tailed drongo to whistle like an owl.
Oh, I'd love to be able to do that. Got the fork-tailed drongo there. And we've also got a chin spot batis that's been jumping around, and there's one that's actually right close up here. Now, oh, you can hear him bill snapping. Sorry, Ferg, to pull you away from the fork-tailed drongo. Two of them are jumping around this tree. Chin spot batis, very, very cool bird to see. They do. Ferg hasn't seen him. He's moved now, and he's not. There we go. At the bottom. There we go. There's the female. There's the female. Got the brown band on the chest, and that brown chin spot. Very, very cool indeed to see. There's a male and female both jumping around this very tall knobthorn acacia tree, feeding probably on lots of insects that are moving their way around. They feed on the insects that might be flying off, little flying type insects. Couldn't tell you exactly which species, but in an enormous tree like that there must be an enormous amount of food jumping in and around. And they do behave similarly to the flycatchers in their hunting approach. They'll sort of wait, but the difference they can have is that they also can move through the branches and then also do that hawking style motion of flying out and catching something that's been flushed. Very, very cool indeed. Very big knobthorn acacia with the brown pods. And those pods are a favorite food for baboon. You know, I do like talking about my baboons. Elephants will eat those pods as well, actually quite favoured by a lot of animals when they're dark like this. Very nice seeds inside. It's always funny to watch a baboon precariously perched on top of a very thorny knobthorn, plucking at these pods. When you're hungry, you'll climb the most insurmountable tree to get at your food. Minamu, you want to know why or how then the birds survive the winter without insects and berries? Well, the thing is that they are now in winter. There's a lot of fruiting pods like these ones here. The jackalberries are fruiting now. There's still a lot of pods left on the terminalias, the silver cluster leaf. And the insects, the specialized birds, know how to get them. So if you're specialized in your feeding behavior, woodpeckers, for example, or hornbills, or probing insects with their beaks, then they're able to access insects and food that no others can. And if they're not specialized, they generally will migrate up north. And also having a varied diet. You know, hornbill will eat on insects and fruits and on small mammals and on lizards and pretty much whatever they can get their beaks on. So they're not that selective. Okay, and the number of birds that do stay around is a good indication that there is food available. There is definitely food available, and they're probably a little bit more successful because there's enormous amount of individuals that don't survive the migration. They might be born in the UK or in Europe, come all the way here, and huge proportion of them don't even get back again. So it's a massive risk coming all the way down here to feed, and they primarily feed on insects. Whereas a lot of the other birds you find here will have a mixed diet between fruits, seeds, and Yeah, woodpeckers will obviously be able to peck into the wood. The probers moving through the bark underneath the trees. Leaf tossers jumping on the ground, turning the leaves over. So there's plenty of food around. You just need to know how exactly to find it. Here's a jackalberry here. No fruit in it. Aaron, I will most certainly look out for martial eagle. Here is it's a jackalberry that's not fruiting, it seems, but a couple of the others that we've seen around are fruiting. So it's very common to find African green pigeons, hornbills, barbets, and even grey go-away birds flying out of these trees because of the fruiting they provide. And enormous trees like the jackalberry can be fruiting at any time of year, and they produce an enormous amount of fruit. So that is what supplements a lot of the frugivore's diet, the African green pigeon being 100% frugivore, and they don't need to migrate. They also spend a lot of their time in fig trees. We don't have too many in the area, but in the Lowveld there are plenty of fig trees, and the African green pigeon, being able to fly, can cover large areas and will indeed feed on many, many, many figs. But if a martial eagle materializes, I promise you I will point it out. They are the largest of the raptors that we do find around here, so if they are spotted, they're not easily missed. There we go. So we're following along these little drainage depressions to hopefully see if we can find any little animals secreting themselves away. And at the same time, these giant trees could be housing a leopard with her stash of meat for the afternoon. Yes, there's a possibility. There's a good prospect. If any of you were live with us early this morning with the thermal tests, we had a leopard that we found just here, and he crossed south though, back and down into Little Gowrie. Chased by a buffalo at one point. It was quite funny to see. Okay, well, we're going to keep moving along in the drainages. We're probably going to move a little bit further east, see anything on that side we might be able to find.
There we have a Natal spur fowl. Possibly the second most unusual spur fowl that we have here. The most unusual being the Shelleys, which I think is a Franklin. Anyway, he's quite a magnificent fellow. All of them have got really nice, that dull coloration is really nice on them if you get up close to it. It's quite shimmering, all of it for camouflage, except he has got, of course, pinkish orange legs and a pinkish orange beak. There he seems to be coming out. Now, again, I wonder if his diet differs from that of the other Franklin we saw today, which was the crested Franklin. Let me have a quick look. Do tell me if you find the diets of these birds a bit boring. I shall stop doing it. I shall stop boring you to tears. Right, diet, bulbs, roots, seeds, and some fruits. Yeah, that was pretty much exactly the same as the crested Franklin that we saw earlier today, this morning that was, except for the fact that the crested Franklin apparently eats a lot more by way of corms, and I think a corm is a sort of underground grass tuber, if I'm not mistaken. That a grass can really have a tuber. It's just kind of a tuber. But the Natal spurfowl does not appear to be a lover of corms. We've gone past Biffle's Hook waterhole. Project Alpha, thank you very much. You say the diets are fascinating. I shall continue with them. Absolutely, I shall continue with them. As I said, was just starting to say, we did go past Biffle's Hook waterhole to see if little Kalamba was waiting there for us. She wasn't. We don't want to go crashing into the bush to where we saw her last, because that just might be a little unkind. She was a bit nervous this morning, out on her own, so we'll let her be. I'm still wondering if her mother hasn't come to fetch her, which would be very nice. Some of you saying that I could never be boring. I can assure you I can be deeply boring. I'll tell you when I become deeply boring. I become deeply boring after I've had 1 or 2 apple juices, which aren't really apple juice. And then I can start mouthing off on various subjects, posturing and postulating with great authority before waking up in the morning feeling desperately embarrassed at how I, well, came across, really. Let's go across to Steve, who has yet another feathered bird.
Well, we did have a feathered bird. Well, there was a number of them here. We had all sorts. Let's see if we can maybe call some out, shall we? We had a long-billed crombeck, we had a black-back puffback. There we go, up at the top there. Oh, what do you got there? We've got a nest. That was a Wahlberg's, I do believe. A very unsuccessful Wahlberg's nest. There's lots of birds just jumping around in the undergrowth here, but very hard to capture them, I'm afraid, folks. Here we go. There we go. There's the black-back puffback. Very good. I can hear a chagger in there as well. And there's a blue waxbill just in front. You probably can't see it. They're all over the place. There's a whole bird party here. See what Ferg can capture. It's very tricky with a big camera lens like this, folks. I must tell you. I'm moving from one to one with my binoculars, but the birds are all over the place. There we go, Ferg, on the top of that small shrub up there. Crombeck again. Oh, there we go. Oh, yes. I wonder if you know what that is, ladies and gentlemen. That is a very cool bird we don't often get to see. Hashtag SafariLive if you know what bird that is. It is a feathered bird. Very well done, Kirsten. It's just gone up again. Ah, no. It's gone. Well, if you know what bird that was, let me know. I do know what it was. There we go. We all know what this guy is. We all know who he is. The grey go-away bird. So if you've got to look at that yellow bird with the white belly and the black stripe across his chest, let me know if you know what it was. Hashtag SafariLive, or pop it on the YouTube stream. We're once again in a little depression here, and the birds are all over the place. There's another one just over here, Fergus, directly in front of us again. The crombeck is back. Yeah, just up a little bit. There we go. Left. Oh, we got one. It's very hard, folks. There's a whole lot of birds in there. If you come back to the front there, there he is. Yes. Oh, that is a rattling, rattling cesticular. Ah, Project Alpha, you are normally 100% correct with those. You say bar-throated apalis, but bar-throated apalis don't normally occur, as far as I'm aware, too commonly in this area, and they've got more of a darker colour. But you're very close, though. You're very, very close. Kathy, it is indeed a Tweety bird. It is indeed a Tweety bird, but not the Tweety bird we're looking for. Project Alpha, you were very close. I'm going to give everyone one more guess. One more guess. I don't think the bar-throated occurs here. I'm going to double check. Ooh. Let's have a look. It could occur here. Could occur here. Ah, Project Alpha. I'm going to 100% agree with you on the yellow-breasted apalis. And for those of you who didn't get to have a look at it, let me have a show. It's got a yellow breast and a yellow breast and the white belly, and it makes it very characteristic with that very sort of white, or sorry, should I say black bar along. Let me just try and swipe that across. Show you a nice pretty picture. Hello. There we go. Now that bar is not always all the way across. It is sometimes genetic. Sometimes you get all the way across for the male and sometimes you don't. So that's why it shows it there as just a one spot. There we go. Not as well. And there we go. Nothing at all in the female. Okay, but very nice yellow on the chest and white on the belly. And a very cool call. I like to always remember it as the DJ Palace. So you're ready to hear it. It's like if those of you who remember the days of disco, have a listen. You can see yourself having a bit of a dance, eh? Maybe not. Maybe a different tune. You might need a different tune. Okay? DJ Palace. When you hear him, he's quite... You just want to start sort of breaking it down. Ferg was moving on the back. You saw the camera swaying. You saw the camera swaying. I don't know if I want to leave Ferg. There's so many birds out here. Let's have one more look, shall we? One more look. One more look for one more bird and then we can go. We've suddenly found a plethora of birds. We might as well see what else pops itself out. But they're being very shy. But it's quite nice down in these depressions. We've passed a little herd of impala that was just off to the left. You can tell by the leaves of the trees, they're not moving as much. It's much more sheltered down here than what we had up on the slope. I can hear a woodpecker. There's the sound of a chagra there. Have you got one? Oh, very good. There we go. There we go. There is the rattling cisticola, however you'd like to pronounce that. And off he goes. Well, we're going to move off out of our drainage depression, and I believe Taylor is making herself a little bit camouflaged.
Am I? Is it working? Can you see me? Hello, it's me over here. Obviously, you can see me. I don't think I'm very camouflaged. Anyways, what we're looking at the moment, all that white stuff on the leaves, that is from rhinoceros urine. I'm going to go ahead and say it was probably a white rhino, just because we don't see very many black rhino up here. And for those of you that have never seen a rhinoceros, I shall now demonstrate how a male rhino marks his territory. Are you ready? He would have... Should we back up a little bit? We'll go this way. Or maybe I'll come to you. I'll do it this way. Okay. So he's probably been walking around, nose on the floor. Because I make the weirdest, deepest breathing sounds. And then went, perfect tree. And came around here. And basically, as he was scraping like this, he would have kicked over the tree, scraped with his feet, he didn't defecate, and then would spray urine backwards up onto this little dwarfed guarri bush. And once he's done, finished scraping and urinating and spraying his scent over there, he would have carried on down that way. Now, something that always amazes me is how rhinos, leopards, lions, anything that goes off and does a bit of scent marking for kilometers and kilometers and keep it up, which is pretty impressive. And especially with a rhino. It is quite something if any of you have ever seen it before. So it's quite nice, all dried out. I wonder, you don't always see the white. It smells heavily of urine though. So it's obviously the uric acid that we may be seeing here. That's maybe all on here. And you can actually still smell it. Not like buttered popcorn, no, Kirsty, no. This is not as bad as the smell of hippopotamus dung and urine and the combination that comes up. That's vile. That's really terrible. This doesn't smell so bad at all. So really quite cool. And a very prominent pathway. This is also the pathway that Tingana has been walking up and down over the last few days, which is why we haven't seen him, because it's not near any obvious roads. No, James, I'm not actually sure. I mean, I've seen it a couple of times where you get this sort of build-up on the leaves, and it must have something to do with their diet, I'd imagine. And like I said, the fact that I can still smell it The fact that there's still a very, like, sort of pungent smell here makes me think that this wasn't too old. Maybe only a couple of days ago. You can smell it. It's really, and obviously over time that scent is going to get less and less. And I'm sure to another rhino that's probably a lot more pungent than what it is to just Sebastian and I. And so perhaps it's because it's drier times. Again, the food is not as nutritious. I haven't got a clue. Maybe something it was eating was maybe high in tannins. I don't know why it's this sort of colour. Maybe not drinking enough water. Multi-rhinoceros. But let's carry on. So I believe a couple of you think that I'm a bit foolish for walking around here in shorts. I have to tell you right now, you can ask 90% of the safari guides will say to you that it is so much more comfortable being out in the bush in shorts. Long pants is just too hot up here. Even in winter it can get hot. I only have this jacket with me because I know for the last half an hour it gets really quite chilly. And I know that I get a rash and irritation from the grass, but you know, I'm not going to die from it. It only seems to only be certain grasses too. So it doesn't bother me too much. I was only making a joke earlier. So yes, it's nice to wear shorts. It's wonderful to feel the vegetation, you know, all over you while you're walking, and not to sort of be layered up. It can be quite uncomfortable. Try walking long pants when there's dew on the grass. That's a fun experience. You just become drenched. Not only do you have wet shoes and socks, but then you have wet pants as well. So sometimes it helps a little bit. This is a very popular spot. We've actually just done a little loop. Look at even the buffalo have been here. This is obviously quite old. But this pathway is fantastic, and it is the most direct route to get to Tamboti Dam, which typically has quite a bit of water in it too. Very nice, so that's why it's such a prominent pathway. But anyways, let's go across to Steve, who's got a bird that likes to fish.
Yes, well, it's definitely part of the kingfisher family, but not necessarily a very big fisherman itself. And the brown hooded kingfisher, he's got a very muddy beak, as if he's maybe went for a drink and got a bit of mud there. Very strange. There we go. Nice. Very easy to identify this individual. First of all, it's one of the few kingfishers you find away from water all year round, and doesn't have a very it's kind of a camouflaged sort of body. You know, when you look at something like the grey-headed kingfisher, they've got a very, very easily identified chest, because the chest has got that nice pattern of rufous below and grey above. Another weight and sort of fly specialist that's waiting there for any movements on the ground. D-Lionheart, they are indeed very beautiful birds. I do enjoy the kingfisher family. Definitely one of the favourite families to pay attention to. And they're here all year round. And the bank you'll see behind, we're in this sort of river depression in the Mulwati drainage now, and it requires the banks for breeding. They actually breed in the banks of the cliffs, not in tree hole cavities. They actually use the banks themselves to nest, but not close to water, further away from water. And it's almost a horizontal sort of shaft that goes down. And kingfishers are notorious for not cleaning their youngsters. The youngsters get very smelly, and that is potentially a reason or a threat, or the way that they prevent predators from crawling in and munching them. Seem to see lots of kingfishers around, so it seems to work for them. But I don't know. I don't know if I had a child, if I would let it get all soiled and dirty constantly. That's what they do. And primarily insect eaters, as we said. Will feed on some fish, some crabs, even rodents if it can get its hands on it, and even young birds. Okay, well, we've got a beautiful bird here, and it seems like James has got a bigger one with a long tail.
So it's much bigger. Maybe it is a little bit bigger, but it certainly has a longer tail. That is the magpie shrike, sitting waving in the wind. A mysterious bird. Why, you say, is this bird mysterious? Well, it's mysterious because of that long tail, which serves no purpose that anyone can tell me or fathom. And it is a little bit like the tail of a wider or a widow bird, which of course does have a function to attract females. The females don't have that tail. The tail is in fact a hindrance to them. And both male and female magpie shrikes have the long tail. And so why on earth would they have it? It cannot be to attract females. Emma says it's like hair extensions. Well, sorry about that, Senzo. I suppose it might be considered a little bit like hair extensions. Well, sort of, really. They are quite attractive birds, and they've got a very lovely call, very lovely whistling call, which this one is obviously not going to do. Nice work there, Senzo. Soraya, I can mimic 1,384 bird calls. It's really very impressive. I don't know, I haven't really counted. I don't think very many at all. I can only whistle in one way, you see. I can only do a whistle like this. I can't make those whistles where people go... Can you do that? Can you whistle like that? No. If you can do that, you can make a lot more. And so, well, I suppose I could, let's say 20 bird calls, maybe? Shall we do them? Shall we do them? Let's do the woodland kingfisher. Chip, which sounds exactly like a woodland kingfisher. We know I can do the pearl-spotted owl, not as well as Taylor can do it, because she managed to actually attract a pearl-spotted owl the other day. The orange-breasted bush shrike I'm quite proud of. It goes... There we go. Ooh, hang on. Let's not talk anymore like this. Here are Tlalumba's tracks. I can do the hardy-dar, which goes... Tlalumba has come along here today. That's only 4, isn't it? I can do the southern boo-boo. Taylor says, can I do the fiery-necked nightjar? Of course I can, Taylor. It goes like this. Good Lord, deliver us! Good Lord, deliver us! Good Lord, deliver us! Sounds exactly like that. That's 6. The go-away bird I can do. Quack, quack, quack. There's this little cat. The Egyptian goose female is easy. It's a bit higher pitched than that. Let me just have a look around here quickly on the road to see if there are any twacks. No further twacks over here. Sendo, I would follow me with the camera just for in case she isn't in here. With her mummy, perhaps. So this is very close to where we saw her this morning. The white-crowned, at least the magpie shrike, is coming with us. And the magpie shrike sees Tlalumba. The magpie shrike will tell us. It will say, just like that. Almost exactly the same. What I don't want to do is give her a fright. Little termite mound over there. Oh, I can't see anything there. Those tracks look pretty fresh to me, and they don't continue down this road. So she's gone off into the block somewhere around where we are now. Senzo, you'll tell me if Kirsten wishes to link, will you? No, she's not on the road here. Let's have a quick look here. Yes? Link to Taylor. Okay. Let's go across to Taylor.
I thought there was going to be some form of a challenge there, but apparently not. Thank goodness. Whew. So how terrible was James's fiery necked night charcoal? Was it worse than mine and Steve's that we did last night? I actually can't even remember who won. Not that I really sort of mind. I mean, I didn't lose sleep over it last night. But can anybody in Final Control remember who ended up winning? Because we did a poll between Steve and I as to who could do the better fiery necked night charcoal. They were both... I don't know how. I can't even remember what those words sound like now. We were just saying between the three of us, we were going, what does it call sound like again? How we did? No, I've forgotten. Anyways, so what we're trying to do now is we've picked up on Singana's tracks again, but they're his old tracks because we know he's been found at Tamboti Dam. He moved a little bit away. But we're trying to find out where he's had this kill because apparently he's bursting at the seams. So he must have eaten something, and Herbie's been saying he's been hearing the bushbuck alarming around here for the last day or two, and he hasn't been able to work it out. So now we're basically on his trail, and the tracks are going back in that direction. So hopefully, if we just keep walking around here, we'll eventually find the carcass. Maybe there'll be a couple of bones or a bit of hair or something along those lines that will give us some indication as to what he has eaten. I'd imagine it would have been something quite large because he hasn't really been seen for the last couple of days. He's sort of been MIA. Anyways, so we'll keep having a little look around here. But it's getting tough now, so we are still trying to follow. But you can kind of see that there's not a direct pathway here, which makes it tricky. Anyways, let's go to Steve. He's got one of the most impressive antelope.
And we do have a very impressive bunch of boys. They're moving off a little bit. We might have to reposition. But as anticipated, they're down here in the drainage, sheltering away from the wind. You can see the grass around that kudu's head is not moving too much. There he's nibbling. He's found himself a tasty little tree to feed on. Looks like a young leadwood. There were 3 boys a moment ago, and it's amazing how they can just disappear into the wilderness. So there's the other one. There's a much younger one hiding to a bit more left, Ferg. Bit more left. There we go. Left, left. There we go. There he is. They can just disappear if they want to. That is how they have evolved. If they're not moving, they will disappear. So there we go. There's the Van Wykshout, or the tree wisteria, being browsed upon. You see how tall the kudu needs to have its neck to be able to feed on that tree. And the way that wisterias grow is they grow quite sort of tall, and then they droop their leaves down, and so they can afford to not have too many chemicals in the leaves once they reach a certain height, because not many things can reach them. They're quite a palatable plant. A giraffe will obviously have no problem reaching the taller branches, but other than a kudu in the area, there's no one else who would reach up to there. The nyalas may be a bit too short. If we had eland around, they would probably have a go. See, so the wind you can see around the head of that kudu now is much stronger, just a metre or two out of the drainage itself. And that is giving a little bit of concern to that kudu. I've even seen kudus using their horns to break branches down to enable them to feed. It's quite a nice adaptation. It's obviously only something that males can do. He's using the tongue. It's got to taste good when you're stretching like that. Beautiful horns indeed. It's a beautiful individual. It's not a fully mature one. Still got some time to go. Munch, munch, munch. Eat as many leaves as you can. There's quite a few animals down here. You can't see them all. They're all kind of, a lot of them on the left of the drainage, number of impala. There's at least a three male kudu. We didn't want to go too far forward lest we chase them all away, because sounds in days like this when it's windy can make animals a little bit jumpy. But now we're going to move forward. Seeing as we've spotted him, maybe we get him in a little bit of a better light. Maybe get a view of that bigger boy who moved off first. Malika, the stripings and markings on kudu are all very similar, but I think there's also slight differences to them. I've never compared them like intricately. I think they're all there. I think there's the same amount of spots and dots, but they're just slightly differently painted on, if that makes any sense. But I've honestly never compared them. Here we go. There's another guy there. Just come around here. He's a beautiful individual. Sorry, my boy. Is that the same guy? I'm not sure. Doesn't look... Ah, there's another one off to the right. So he's moving through very slow and deliberately, also with his oxpecker in tow. But the white stripe between the eyes is on all kudu, and then a couple spots on the face. I think they are all very similar, but just slight differences in their design. And then the stripes on the body, I think they're all very, very similar. But Malika, I've honestly never taken two kudu next to each other and compared if it's exactly the same. I think there must obviously be slight differences, because there's genetics in play. That's how the fur grows off of the skin. So I'm sure there's slight differences, but I don't know if it's as intricate as that of the spots of a leopard. But interesting indeed, something to ponder. Magic Dragon Wizard, as always, I love your name. And kudu and nyala, very easy to identify the difference. Oh, we got a wildebeest in the drainage. What's going on here? Here we go. I said this morning this doesn't occur, and we are standing, well, we are driving pretty much exactly where I was this morning when I spoke about wildebeest not coming down here. It just goes to show how the wind can change an animal's behavior. They've come down to feed in the thickets. So, Magic Dragon Wizard, if you look at a nyala, any nyala, they've all got orange legs. Kudu have got grey legs. So that's the quickest, the easiest way to identify. And the female nyala, the legs are orange as well as the body, a uniform colour with the stripes, whereas kudus are all a uniform grey. And the male nyala have always got the orange socks, and even when they're fully mature. And as they get older, their upper body gets more brown. More brown in colour, almost chocolatey, and they seem to have, nyala male and female, a lot more fur than that of a kudu. A much shaggier coat, even the females. And I'll find it for you in my book and we can have a look. There's one lone wildebeest down here. He's probably lost his herd and he thought, well, let me hang out with the impala. They don't seem to bother me too much. That's a good idea. Very good idea. Okay, well, my book is not going to give you a very good indication of the difference between nyala and kudu, because they look very similar in my book with the lighting, so we'll scrap that. But nyala have got very orange legs, and the females are completely uniform orange. The males have got the chocolate brown, but always the orange long socks. Very good. That wildebeest is also having a bit of a clean from a number of oxpeckers on his bottom. Well, we're going to move out this way, out of this drainage, and it seems like James is popped a visit up to Scuba Steve.
Except that Scuba Steve, I don't think, is here. Let's just keep looking to the end there. I didn't find Tlalamba, obviously. I actually wonder if she wasn't walking along the road as we were coming along and she sort of ducked off as she heard us. That's how fresh those tracks looked in wind like this. So we'll turn around and go back up and just see if she doesn't pop out. In the meantime, is Scuba Steve there? Is the big question. Is he still around? Coastsider, you want to know if I've ever gone fishing? Yes, I have gone fishing from time to time. I've been known to fish in my younger years, very little though. My first fishing experience was at a place called Great Brack when I was, how old was I? I must have been about 5, I think. Yes, I think I was 5. I got a fishing rod for my Christmas present, and I took it down to the pier and I fished, and I caught what did I catch? I caught a steenbras. I don't know what that is. I actually couldn't recognize a steenbras, and I took it home very proudly to my family, and I thought that I would feed everyone with it. It was about this big. That big, maybe. And I was deeply distressed to find that not the whole family would be able to eat from the steenbras I had caught, and unlike the story of the fish and the 5,000 and the, 2 fish and 5 loaves, my fish did not extend to feeding even 8 people, unfortunately, so my brother and I ate it with quite long teeth, I seem to remember. Anyway, that's about all the fishing I've done. I did a little bit when I went to the coast as a youngster, but it's not something I particularly enjoy. I think my attention deficit disorder is such that I just get far too bored too quickly. That said, I mean, Brent Leo Smith has an attention deficit disorder, and he absolutely loves fishing. So I'm not sure what it is that makes me not particularly fond of it. I remember that's not the only fish I've caught a few others, and I remember catching one with my father, and my father is not a fisherman at all. There are some alarm calling batises in here. Let's just have a look in their sensor, see if you can see any spots. And we had to bludgeon the thing, of course, with a piece of wood to make it die after we'd taken the hook out of its mouth, and I think we both felt that this was not really the nicest thing for us to be doing. We did eat it, of course. It was very delicious. I like eating fish. Anyway, so no, not much of a fisherman. I also went on a university trip once to a place called Mapelan, which is on the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal. A beautiful place, absolutely stunning place. And in the mouth of the river that fed into the sea there, can you see a leopard there? I can't see a leopard. There were a whole lot of what we call grunter. I think basically you'd call them, I think they're called grouper anywhere else. Anyway, everybody in the entire party managed to catch at least 2 grunter. I caught none, and I was designated as the person who had to dig holes and bury the fish so that they stayed relatively fresh for the rest of the day before we could get them home and cook them. So that is the history of my fishing. Thank you very much. I'll just have a quick look down in there. There are some arrow-marked baburlas, but there don't seem to be any leopards. Well, I'm glad, Dina. You say my fishing story made you feel all warm and fuzzy. That's very good. Thank you. Now, these birds make me feel a little bit warm and fuzzy. The arrow-marked babbler, one of the very first birds I ever learned on a little family bush trip to the Pilansberg, which is a small reserve north of Johannesburg. Oh, Senzo, doing a bit of artistic flight following of the arrow-marked babbler. Really, I think Scuba Steve has absconded. I think finally the insults to which I've subjected him have meant that he's moved on. Hopefully he wasn't too upset. Sometimes my teasing does go a little overboard. My sister would attest to that. Kirsten, that is very unkind. She says, I made a little girl cry last night. That's not strictly true. We've got a couple of kids in camp, and one of them thought she'd do a card trick on me, and so I pretended to be very stern, and I was actually quite amused. She didn't realize that I wasn't really very stern and amused, and so she wasn't really pleased. I think she may have shed a tear, but that wasn't intentional. Now let's find some interesting biology to show you. We'll just drive very carefully along this road again and then leave this area and seek out some other things somewhere else. Right, Taylor, I suspect with her skills and those of the inimitable Herbie, will have a better chance of finding some cats.
Well, we're not doing so well today, but we'll keep giving it a bash. Now, I cannot tell you how I laughed last night. Like, the tears were streaming down my face at the fact that James made a little girl cry. And he didn't do anything bad. All he did was he got impatient. And he just, you know, he did a classic one of those. He does it to me often. That's normally whenever I go, James, he just does this all the time to me all the time. He goes, what now? But anyways, I was now actually a part of this whole card trick saga last night, the magic trick, and they were very upset because, I kid you not, I stood in my own room with all these little girls and the little boys around me and planning this magic trick for about 20 minutes. I mean, I just listened to them all say exactly the same thing, and then I was like, okay, so I just keep the card in my pocket then and I hide away. And it was very funny. So there I stood, just lingering around the kitchen, hoping, and next minute they come running past. Ooh, Kate's crying, and I'm like, what's happened? Are we not doing the trick? No, James didn't want to. It's just so funny. I laughed. I thought it was so great. Yes, so it was quite spectacular. So, James, if we go through that whole thing again, please act surprised, pretty please, and please don't do this to the small children. It was really, really so funny. We had a good laugh last night. It was great. So now, I haven't actually walked here for a while. Seb, were you not with me the last time when we had that magical moment when we had the monkeys in the tree? It was with you, yeah. Remember one morning, not this cycle, I think it was when I just got back from Kenya, so maybe in March or April, but it was really quite amazing. We walked a very similar pathway. You might be able to see the fence, or we're going to see it now as we walk through here. So we're just in front of Vuyatela Lodge, and there's the most unbelievable game path that goes through here, and it's great to do it in the morning because, of course, all the lovely light coming through the big jackleberry trees and things like that is stunning. And we had monkeys up in the trees, and we had birds and all sorts of wonderful things chirping, and it was actually a very special moment. It was one of my favorite moments on bushwalk. I'll never forget it. However, this afternoon, it's not so exciting. There's not much happening here. We did scare the impala. They ran away that side. Pia, you want to know if we get African pygmy hedgehogs? No, I don't think so. I think we do get hedgehogs around here. I've, however, never seen one. Have you ever seen a hedgehog in this area? Have you, Herbie? No. We saw them in the Mara. Maybe we get them here. Again, you know, they say that pangolin occur here and that aardwolf and all these wonderful creatures. Yet to see them. But apparently they're here. So it's not to say that they're not. But can you imagine being a small creature the size of a hedgehog? Yes, you do have spines on your back, but, you know, there's some birds out here with some really, really big talons, and cat species with sharp teeth and claws that I think would gobble them right up. You know, the other thing, the other day I was laughing, I read something, and it's so true, I don't know, maybe you can all help me, you can help me get to the bottom of this. It was a meme, because, you know, the interweb is just so great. And the meme basically stated, it was like a person that was looking confused and says, where else do hamsters occur other than pet shops? Has anyone ever thought about that before? Has anyone seen a group of wild hamsters running around through the leaf litter somewhere in the world? I haven't, and I cannot think where on earth you would find a hamster. But maybe somebody knows. Kirsten has just said Hamsterdam. No, man. That's very funny. That is hilarious. Hamsterdam. Now, I'm not hearing anything because I know they're all cackling away in final control. That's very funny. Kirsty's very good at puns. Emma got big shoes to fill. That's all I'm saying. Pun game is strong with us here. That was great. Very, very, very sharp. So maybe someone can do a bit of research and try and find out where on earth wild hamsters roam, because I'm going to have to add that to my list. Can you imagine? You just die of cuteness. Oh, so sweet. Are they solitary? Do they live in groups? Like, how does it work out in the wild? I don't know. I've never seen them before. Anyways, there's lots of things I haven't seen out here. So, did I just see a tick? Nope. There's a node on the grass. Never mind. With all the drying grass at the moment, it's sort of going quite dark brown. You get surprised. Herbie's just gone. No. Nope, we're going back this way now. We'll keep going back this way. I don't know why we can't go there. We'll find out now if we go back to Steve.
Well, we've got another bird. And most of you would think it is a fork-tailed drongo, but it is not, ladies and gentlemen. Very overlooked from time to time. It's indeed the southern black flycatcher. There are two of them. One is a little bit further away now, but it's a lot more delicate in its sort of size than the fork-tailed drongo. It's also got doesn't have a forked tail. You can't see it very clearly now. The tail's quite narrow, but it lacks. See how it's got a dark eye. Fork-tailed drongo has got a red eye. So isn't that interesting? Very easily overlooked. A lot of people will say, oh, there's just another fork-tailed drongo. But southern black flycatcher, the fork-tailed drongo, is in fact a flycatcher. And off he goes. He's just landed just over here. You might be able to see the tail quite clearly now. Look at the base of the tail, folk. Oops. There he goes. And he's landed on the floor. He's doing some feeding. What have you got there? Wow, you never see a fork-tailed drongo jumping around on the ground. Sometimes you might see them anting on the floor. Very good. It must be... Geez, I've never seen a flycatcher doing this. Must be a whole lot of termites there. Insects for them. Munch, munch, munch. That is how some of the birds survive out here. Termites is the way forward. Wait for the termites to come out and do their thing in the morning or in the afternoon, and then make your way and feed on them while they are busy actively eating all the organic material in and around. We do have the Wallingtons behind us. It is just a bird, Graham. Just a bird. They're very disappointed. Have you guys been on camera before? A bird. We're looking at birds and they're looking very disappointed. I might turn and... Can we show them, Ferg? Are we allowed to show these guys? Who are these people? Yep. Okay, well, we're going to move out of the way. They can go find some animals while we do some birding, shall we? Okay, well, we're going to go over to James Henry with something that the Wallingtons would indeed like to see.
Tundi has just killed the striker. As we linked away from you last time, both of us heard, wah, which is what these dikers do when they're caught by a leopard. We quickly drove around to the top of the Footsoot Dam, down through the drainage line, up over some logs. We found some squirrels' alarm calling, and we drove along here, and there we have a magnificent leopard on a kill. Then Senzo and I fist pumped because we were very, very happy with ourselves. We were deeply pleased with our efforts. I think it's Tundi. I'm 99% sure it's her. She's just doing a bit of plucking at the moment. We'll get a better view than this. Is it Tundi? Hang on a sec. Yeah, I think it's her. That's it. The only reason I'm slightly doubting myself is that she didn't snarl at me. She almost always does. Alright, we'll try and get into slightly better signal area. In the meantime, let's go back to Taylor.
We have a Nyala who's just stepped out of frame. Now, anyways, Herbie wants to tell you all something very quickly. Wait. Make sure you get all of this. No. He's not laughing at Amsterdam either. I'm still chuckling at this. But then Herbie just said this when I told him that Tundi has just killed the Dacre and James has found her.
James is on fire.
You didn't say it like that, Herbie. You went, James is on fire. Which was the most ridiculous thing I think Herbie's ever done. James is on fire. But he is on fire. He's totally on fire. Hey, he's winning. He's come out, and it's like Tundi's actually, you know, the two of them have this secret code. I don't actually know what it is. Anyways, come with me. Kosi, who was wanting a bear? Ah. Robin. Just for you, remember how I wanted to do that test with all of you and show you how a prickly pear can grow, but somebody's come and dug it up. But I'm going to stand up. Look how the roots have sprouted. Do you see that? So not exactly what I wanted. I mean, I covered it a little bit to show you how it can just start growing with sand over the top of it, but it seems like an elephant or something has come through here and something has started feasting upon it, which has killed it. But those are roots that have sprouted, which is pretty amazing, because this didn't come from the ground. This I kicked straight off. Remember, I think I did. Were you with me, Seb?
No.
I think it was Craig, when I just karate kicked. Look, I'll show you. Are you ready? This is where I karate kicked. This used to belong here, like that, at one point in time. And then I kicked it, so I still haven't come to remove the prickly pear. Shall we kick it down now? Where's the chopping thing? Now, this is my favourite part, where I get to sword fight a prickly pear. The bone, because I don't want to get close. Okay, yeah, I would.
Oh, you're doing that one?
I'm doing all of them. Get gone. We don't like you. For all the prickles, for the amount of times that these things have stabbed me in my youth. It's really showing me now, though, hey? Oh, I'm trying to actually... Oh, it's like a fork. Okay. Right, everybody, I'm going to get there. I just want to see if I can actually rest it on something. Okay, we'll knock it down first. So, for those of you that follow regularly, you will know we don't like prickly pears because they do not belong here, South Africa, in Africa. They were brought here. I'll just quickly reiterate. I've spoken about it a couple of times, and they're a huge pest. They're brought in by the settlers, and as food, because if you dry the prickly pear and you grind it up, it makes a great fodder. And down in the Eastern Cape, it's not great grazing, especially when the settlers first started arriving. So I'm trying to get it out by its roots now, and it spreads like wildfire. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try and knock it all out, and then I'm going to wedge it in the trees, because it can't grow. It's not going to drop roots that high, so I think that might be a way to get rid of it. So we're getting away with this, we're doing away with this alien vegetation we don't want here. Anyways, it seems as though James has managed to reposition now, so why don't you go watch Tundi eat.
Yeah, we're in a slightly better position now. I think we'll have decent signal. I'm told that the signal is okay here. There we are. I know that we've had better views, but what a pleasure to spend a bit of time further with this cat. She does look up at us every so often, and if you were in any doubt as to who she is, you can see there by the mangled left ear. That's the most obvious feature of Tundi's. If you don't know her very well, she's got a perfect right ear and poor left ear. Now, yet again, and maybe it's just the fact that I've forgotten that I've read this, but I don't recall reading that leopards will eat from the hind quarters. Now, this is exactly what she's doing here. She's eating from the hind quarters of the duiker, much the same way she did with the nyala the other day. And so, rather than going for the nutritious organs, she's going for the soft part of the skin at the backside and then eating that rich hind quarter meat. Now, I would have thought Well, the reason I think she's doing it is because she doesn't want to open the belly and, you know, make a smell like she did with the Nyala. They lost the Nyala, she and Tlalamba. But I would have thought in Daika like this, you know, she could eat anything she wanted. She could just tow it up a tree, because for her that would be very easy indeed. So I'm really not sure. You know, I'm slightly confused. I'm wondering if the nutrition that is brought to bear on, you know, the nutrition that is from the hindquarters there is in some way better for her than the offal or the, you know, the rich, nutrient-rich organs, which I'd find strange. Yeah, Giraffe Girl, I agree. I also hope she can host this one. Oh, sorry, I've gone silent because I'm listening to the radio. There are just a few people going to try and get in here. Last station, which sighting are you coming to? See, there are two sightings. There's another leopard sighting. I think it's Tingana on Buffelshoek. Okay, copy that. Right, so we've just got two people coming in here. All right. So I've told this person they can come in. So I'd love to know if anybody has any idea as to what the nutritional value of, say, those hindquarters are versus the offal. Crystal, I don't think that it's a toothache. I don't think that this is easier. You know, the underbelly is a very soft part. It's the first part that lions go for example. So I don't think it's that. It might be that it's more nutritious for her for some reason, you know. You what? You can hear the smell. Senzo says he can hear the smell of the meat. That must mean that it's very strong smelling. Now she's definitely doing exactly what she did with the Nyala 2 days ago. Now, if you weren't watching 2 days ago, I think it was just 2 days ago, Thandi killed a Nyala in front of us. Certainly one of the best leopard kills I've ever seen. Station on the fire break approaching Buffelshoek Dam, come in. Please can you ask your guests to quieten down a bit? There are children screaming on the vehicle behind us. All right, let me just try and deal with this problem. Let's go across to Steve briefly.
Well done, James. You're having such a week with Thandi, aren't you? What a huntress she is indeed. Huntress indeed. So that is a scrub hare this week, a Nyala bull, and now a Daker. Well, no wonder Tlalamba is growing up so big and strong. So we'll just, now the pressure's off for finding leopards this afternoon, we're going to talk about all sorts of other things. Sarah, that's a very good question, and it's a question that I think's been coming up a lot lately. And it's not necessarily the lions are moving out, it's just that Djuma itself is only a small portion. It's only a small portion of the Sabi Sands itself. This is only a pinprick in the Sabi Sands, and we've got an entire area north, which is twice as big. Then Torchwood this side, which is as big. Little Gowrie below, which is as big. Then it just keeps going this way to the west, and then further south. So the lions just keep on moving. They don't sort of go, oh, we're just going to spend our time here. They move in response to the food, and they tend to follow buffalo a lot. And the buffalo aren't spending too much time within Djuma, so they are definitely following the herds of buffalo. And they'll come in and go out into them. It's just a morning stroll, really. Whereas the leopard territories are much smaller and much more confined to certain areas. Thandi seems to like sort of this movement here. Tingana is a lot bigger. He covers twice as big that, all the way across and into the west, and maybe up a bit north as well. Shadulu seems to take this sort of section. It'll just take it all. So they just have far bigger demands and far bigger sort of movement patterns. That is essentially it. They will come and they will go, and they might even walk straight through in one evening without finding food. That's just the way it works. Just the way it works. But the evokers were here the other day, and they moved straight through, and the Nkuhuma seem to be enjoying themselves in the west at the moment. We had the sticks earlier this week, and they walked straight out this road, or not this road, a little bit further up. They were just here on Tuesday, and then they moved out to the west. So they are around, just they don't give us any notification of when they're going to be here. So we have to deliberately go out each day and try to find them again. But they could be anywhere. Could be anywhere. That is why we need to traverse the entire area and cover all these game paths, all these roads, to see if there's any tracks. I mean, not so long ago we had the Nkuhumas just over here, killed a warthog, 2 warthogs. Then Thandi was here the next morning, and the Nkuhumas were just over there again the next day. It's just, they move. There's no real pattern to it, I suppose. For example, if the Nkuhumas came onto the property tonight, they would find animals in the drainage, and that's where they'd kill them, and that's where we would find them in the morning. So it's all about on movement of prey and where the water is. Obviously leopards can survive on much smaller prey. There's lots of duiker in and around, lots of impala, and impala is just an hors d'oeuvre for a pride of lions. So they follow the wildebeest, zebra and buffalo herds for much more feeding. Bigger supermarket, bigger trolley, should I say. Much bigger trolley. Okay, well, talking about leopards and their smaller trolleys, such as duiker, let's go back to James.
Right, we're back again. Here we are. We seem to have quietened down slightly. Thandi is continuing to eat her delicious duiker. And has anybody come up with a clever answer for why they are eating the hind quarters there? Oh. The Project Alpha says with a blunt face that a cat has like this, it's easier for them to get at the flesh at the backside there, because they have that blunt face, and so it's difficult for them to get at the soft underbelly. And so what they do is they use the carnassial teeth, as you can see her doing now. That's what she's using. Carnassials are the molars, the sharp molars. And she chews there, and that's, you know, in the belly that's not possible. Whereas jackals and dogs would do the opposite because they've got much sharper faces. That's fascinating. I'm just trying to help somebody get into the sighting. Sorry, the radio is just going ballistic in my ear. We can stay here. Let's just see what happens. You know, I'm doing it via telephone at the moment. Anyway, I think Project Alpha's probably onto something there. I mean, certainly the next thing she'll go for, I imagine, is the belly. That's what she did with the Nyalo. I suspect quite strongly that I may have read about this before, but not managed to sort of absorb it sufficiently. I'm sorry about the sticks there, but there's nothing we can do about that for now. All right, if you don't mind, yeah. Kathy, the cub is close by here. I'm sure she must have seen the cub. You know, we have the cub tracks around the place. Those ones that we saw were not more than, say, I don't know, say 200 meters from here. So they're around. I'm sure she'll go and fetch Klalamba at some stage. Alrighty, Taylor's got an interesting bird to show you.
We do. Look at this. Now, I can't tell you how close we are. We're less than 20 meters away from this bearded woodpecker. It looks like it's a female. I find bearded woodpeckers to be the easiest to identify out of all the woodpecker species, just because it's quite large. And I said this the other day, look how bold those black and white markings are. Very, very prominent on the head. So the male has got a red sort of cap to the top of his head, and then the female is sort of less spectacular when it comes to colour. Now, she's working quite hard there. It looks like she's actually trying to get in between the bark and try and find little nooks and crannies. You might find that there's some boring beetle larvae stashed away in it, and that's actually what she's after. And maybe there are a couple of little holes already. See, it looks like she's working a hole at the moment. Let's see if she pulls anything out. We're so lucky to be so close. I mean, I don't even think I've had this great of a woodpecker sighting in the vehicle before. So we basically had started on some grass, and then next minute I heard this ta-ta-ta-ta, that thumping sound. And I couldn't believe it when I saw that woodpecker. I thought that when either A, I was going to move, or when Seb was going to move, that this thing was going to fly away. But that's not the case at all. Working oh, there we go, got something. Still working there. Maybe it didn't pull the whole thing out. Like I said, it's got a long, you see that long tongue that it's also using. Even though its beak can't fit all the way in there, very, very long, sort of sharp tongue. That's incredible. The way that it's sticking its tongue out, it's amazing. Wow. There's obviously something else in there. I'm not joking, this is the best woodpecker sighting I think I've ever had in my entire life. I've had one other really good one of a Bennett's woodpecker down on the floor, which was really great, but that was when I was guiding. So Seb also says that this is such a great sighting. Awesome camera work, Seb. Remember, this is on bushwalk, this is all handheld. It's very, very difficult to keep the camera steady like this. Oh, amazing. They must have hit a jackpot there, though, or something. Looks like there's quite a few little holes in there. I'm gonna go. Oh, there we go. It just got. Did you see that? It did. It pulled out a big larvae.
Yeah, that tongue.
I'm pretty sure it's feeding on boring beetle larvae. It's in there. I mean, that's so characteristic of them to sort of have these tiny little holes that bore down into the wood, into the trunk of the tree, and then they'll stay there. That's insane. I can't believe it got such a big one. I mean, that grub is going to be a great, great, great meal. Wow. I can't get over this, and just not stopping, carrying on. Sorry, Seb just needs to obviously stretch his legs, and he wants to just... It's very difficult being down on your haunches the whole time. Ravinda, I don't think they choose specific trees. I think they utilize a variety of trees. You might find things like, say, for instance, the boring beetle won't go for something that's got particularly hardwood. So I doubt that you'd be finding a lot of boring beetles and things like leadwood or red bush willow. However, in a marula tree or a sickle bush or an acacia, you know, any of the sort of sort of trees. The wood is not as hard in comparison, and also not insect repellent. So you will get those trees you'll find will be parasitized more by the various insects. I mean, like I said, from boring beetles to termites and a variety of other things. But that is great. That's really amazing. Very special moment, this. Tom, they must be able to sense it. So, you know how some birds have got sensory nerves in their bill, for instance, like hardy-daws, a probing species, green wood hoopoes. They must have something fairly similar. And I think they also just take a gamble at pecking away at the various holes. Perhaps they sense the movement, they feel vibrations of insects and things moving around. Maybe they can smell them. Certain birds have got better sense of smell than others. So I think there's maybe a combination of sort of techniques that this bird will be using. And the fact that it's still staying there in one spot says to me that there's probably a bit of larvae that are living in that. It doesn't look like that tree is alive anymore. It looks like the elephants have got hold of it and shaped it. And they're quite happy, and it's quite happily just working in there. So that wood's getting old. It's not alive anymore. It becomes dry. It probably becomes a little bit easier to bore into. Thinking about going. Oh, got another. Did I get another one? Hey.
Yeah.
So it's working really hard. So it's taking a little bit away to try and get deeper and deeper into that tree. Now it's just going to be quite restricted because of the length of the beak, and that's where the tongue comes in. I suppose that tongue's almost like a spear, if you will, and it's definitely aiding in fishing those the larvae out. Now, I'm trying to think with wood-boring larvae. I'm pretty sure that each have their own. There's another one. Either they're each individual holes, or there will be quite a few of them in there. I'm not actually sure. But it knows that there's something in there. So it's got 3. Since we've been here, it's definitely successfully pulled out 3 larvae. Not just going to change its angle a bit and work around. That's magnificent. What an astounding day the birds have given us. Paula, yes, I think if you and I were to do something similar, we would have very much of a headache. However, these birds are, of course, specially designed. Who remembers when James dissected a woodpecker and actually cut open the head of a woodpecker? It was quite gruesome, but it was incredibly clever to sort of do that. And you can actually see how the tongue wraps around in the skull, so it helps with protection. It's basically like the equivalent of wearing a shock-absorbing helmet. So they're specially adapted to that. Now, I'm going to keep this. I'll tell you why in a little bit, but I found something that I've seen before, and I'm taking it with me. But anyways, while we start making our way towards camp, I'm going to send you back to James and the beautiful Thandi.
It's not easy to see unless...
Okay, so we're back again here. Thandi has selfishly not gone to fetch the lumber, and that's different from her behaviour last time. Last time she ate only for about 15 minutes or so before she went off to fetch the lumber. This time, perhaps because the kill is smaller, she's decided she's going to have a larger piece of the meal. I'm sure she must at some stage hoist this kill, because there's lots of good trees for her to do it in here. And I'm sure the experience of losing her Nyala to hyenas the other day will make her doubly aware of the danger posed by them. It's so funny, you know, when we found her, the excitement that I felt was just the same as it was the very first time I found a leopard. And of course this was definitely a team effort. Senzo and I both doing our best, and I have to admit, I'm afraid, that Senzo spotted a leopard before I did. Well done, Senzo. That's 2 leopards for Senzo today. Thandi and Tlalamba earlier on this morning. So she's not far from here, little Tlalamba. She'll probably be doing a little bit of hunting on her own. She's 8 months old, and so she will be hunting small things of her own volition these days, which means that Thandi doesn't have to rush back and try and bring her back to a kill because she's going to starve or anything like that. She will definitely get sufficient food on her own if she had to. And she's really enjoying her afternoon tea. Karen, the difference between a steenbok and a duiker, well, they are totally different species. They're both part of what we call, I guess, the dwarf antelope. I think that's just a sort of English designation rather than a biological one. Steenbok is smaller than a duiker, probably weighs in, I don't think it much more than, I think 12 kilos, 12 kilograms, which is about 25 pounds or so. And I think you'll find that a duiker like this can weigh up to 19 kilograms or so, which is almost, well, it's just over 40 pounds. I'm just going to check these figures for you. So I have them here in a little book. So those are the main differences. There are lots and lots of different kinds of duiker. There is only one steenbok. So the common duiker, which is what that one is, naturally, you get some astonishingly coloured duikers, beautiful red and blue and striped. Let me find this fellow, the bush duiker they call him. And so the bush duiker will go up to 26 kilograms, and that's the female. The female unusually is bigger than the male. And I'll see if I can find a little steenbokkie for you. I must be able to find a steenbok. There's a steenbok. Yes, the steenbok. Exactly. Weight around about what I said, 12 kilograms or so. So the steenbok much smaller. Also, the steenbok, of course, is a bright reddish colour in this part of the world, whereas the duiker is grey, giving rise to its other common name, which is the grey duiker. So the steenbok belongs to the sort of grysbok family, they call it, and the genus is Rhaphiceros. There are three other Rhaphiceruses, none of which we get here, but there are lots and lots of duiker. Some of them belonging to the same, most of them belonging to the genus Cephalolophus. 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 I think I'd like to be a Cephalolophus. Not a Cephalolophus that came into contact with Tundi. Yes, as Kirsten says, it's a rather soothing word, Cephalolophus. And I'm sorry this isn't the best view in the world, but I'm afraid we can't really get any closer. Let's see now what she does. Is she going to open up the belly? Is she going to take it up a tree? Is she going to go and fetch her baby? Somebody wanted to see ground hornbills today. Who was that guy? I can hear some calling. They're calling way off to the north. Uru, ururu, uru, ururu, uru, ururu. Might just decide she's going to have a little bit of a break. Stivovo, in his inimitable fashion, has managed to find great slices of golden sunlight.
What a nice saying. Slices of the golden sun. With some beautiful impalas moving through. They've just stopped to have a little bit of a feed. We've come all the way back past Fuetela watering hole to just have a look. You know, it's that time of day. And we got the impala. They were a little bit jumpy down by the watering hole, but now that they've moved off, they're slowly starting to relax. This wind just makes it very scary for everybody, even though that looks like a very peaceful, beautiful scene. These animals live in a constant state of awareness and alertness for the imminent danger that is being a as Ferg says, hukumuri. And Tingana, the leopards that are around, always looking for a unattentive animal. One of the reasons why herds have developed. It's actually a selfish thing. They're not doing it to benefit the others, they're doing it to benefit themselves primarily. Look how high I can jump. Don't go for me, go for that guy. Yes, well done, Ferg. Lots of comments there saying it's very beautiful.
Thank you very much, comments.
He's saying thank you to all the commentators. Beautiful, beautiful indeed. Paul, it is very orange, even to the naked eye. I don't know if you're doing anything special there, Ferg. That's as natural as it comes, Paula. That is what happens with these warm fronts moving in. There's a lot of particle dust in the air. And bearing in mind that we are on the eastern side of the country, so that sun is setting in the west. So there's the entire South Africa in between us and the other coastline. So lots of dust, particles in the air, and winters are always really, really special for that. Winter sunsets and sunrises are always really, really pretty. Wow, Ferg, what have you done now? It's turned it into the moon. You can see the sunspots, or is that just those are leaves? Ferg is so artistic today, and those are just leaves that are blown out there. Very interesting. Nice to be able to look at the sun from time to time without being blinded. Oh, this male impala is being disciplinarian towards one of his ladies. There she runs, and he is chasing right behind. I don't know what she said, but he is not very happy with her. He's flaunting himself now. Look at him go. Yes, I am the man. That is Vuetela Lodge in the background. You might notice electric fences. There we go. He's now showing the ladies how strong he is, and now he's doing a victory lap. Where are you going? Have you spotted a rival impala somewhere? He really did not get the email. He really did not get the email that the rutting season is well and truly over. I mean, it's a whole another full moon later. And where did he go? Did he just fall into the jaws of something at the bottom there, Ferg?
Yeah, maybe Hukumori was having a nap.
I can't see him. Yeah, maybe someone was napping down there. It's not like impalas to chase predators. They generally just avoid them by running very quickly. He's gone. Anyway, we're going to move off. Yes, coastsider, he better keep his eyes peeled for the hookster. Has he run off again? Very interesting. Very interesting. You often see it, they discipline the ladies and then chase them around for a bit, and then to let off their steam they go for a little breather in the corner. Well, we've given James a bit of a breather with his sighting. That's like, let's go back for some more gripping stuff.
Well, the gripping stuff has somewhat calmed down. She's decided she's not going to eat the next little while. She's cleaned her face, made herself presentable, got herself tucked in behind a branch. And I'm sorry about this position. I really just don't know. You know what? Since let me sneak very slightly forward. We might get a slightly better view. Like so. How's that? There we go. That's better. Okay. Happy? Full of joy? Slightly more? Okay. Good. Let's stay here. Fastidious about the cleaning, and as I've said to you all before, I'm pretty sure that these cats are so fastidious about it, not because they're scared of any kind of infection, but because they don't want to smell like rotting carcass. And it's so interesting that lions, which of course have much less to worry about than leopards, don't do the same thing always. They do after they've finished a kill, but for days they will lie at a kill, sort of stinking, covered in viscera. There's space for you, Graham. Come straight in. Best approach is to come along the fire break and take that track that heads towards the northern side of Buffelshoek Dam. I'm just talking on the Game Drive radio there, obviously, everybody. I'm not talking to anybody in the ether who's making their way to the sighting. Many of these cats, of course, need hair in order to digest their food, and so although she'll spit most of the hair out, you saw her plucking the duiker there, she will swallow some of it. It'll just help her to digest the food that she eats. Malika, this is a very interesting one. You say, have I ever come across an animal that has abnormal teeth? I don't think that I have. You know, an animal that has no teeth or has abnormal... I mean, yes, I have. Elephants. Elephants often have variable tusks. They often have recurved tusks in the same way, I guess, that human beings, you know, have buck teeth or pointy, outy teeth. Or, I mean, I would not have a face for what I do now if I hadn't had severe orthodontics as a youngster. But most animals, no. Most animals don't seem to. And Kirsten's just reminding me that she thinks we saw a kudu with funny buck teeth. I think we did. It was either that or his bottom jaw had been broken at some stage or dislocated. Now, Graham, just come along head east along the fire break from Buffelshoek East Road, and at least Buffelshoek West Road, and you'll see the track. We're not far off there. It's quite a difficult spot for people to get into if they don't know the property really well. I've always been astounded also, though, you know, in a rural area like we live in here, the local people who have access to the worst kinds of medical care. I mean, dental care is conducted by means of a slamming door and a piece of cotton. That's the extent of dental care in this area, and yet most people have excellent teeth. Their teeth only starting to show signs, you know, in fact, many of the wealthier local people have got bad teeth because of the diet. You know, it changes and includes things like cold drink and colas and that sort of thing. But it is a start. I mean, when I was at school, you couldn't, you know, 1 in every 3 of us had, as I like to say, teeth that could be used to eat an apple through a tennis racket. But out here, I see far better sets of gnashes. The orthodontists in Johannesburg, when I was at school, made a very, very tidy sum. Tandi's got perfect teeth. Tlalamba's got perfect teeth. For now. Of course, when your teeth are such a crucial part of your weaponry, you know, if Tlalamba was born with squaff canines, you know, sticking out the front of her face as opposed to sticking downwards, it would make a serious difference to what she was able to catch and eat. And if I'm back, saying goodbye to Rex, who's driving some guests in here. Tundi's doing the same. And Graham, I don't know where you are, but Rexon is coming out of the sighting now, so if you're on the fire break, you'll see where he comes out from. Oh, he's behind us, he's made it in. Well, Ali, Senzo was just saying there that he can smell the carcass here. And you know, if Senzo can smell it, it means that other predators will smell it very soon. But she hasn't opened the belly. She might do that now, and then, well, then the hyenas are going to pick it up pretty quickly if this wind continues to blow. Now, make your way straight here. Now, I think she's leaving to fetch the cub. Why on earth she wouldn't hoist it? All right, let's follow. She's going to arrive at Buffelshoek Dam. I'm not going to come back here if she does find the cub because it's getting dark. Oh, thank you very much, Senzo. Senzo saved me camera. Graham, head down to the dam. Yeah, she's moving down there. I think she's going to go and fetch the cub. Alrighty, let's see if we can get another nice view and see if we can find where Tlalamba actually went. Oh, and we have a school drive, remember, in about 10 minutes from now. I'm not sure that this fellow is going to get his giant cruiser through this next drainage system. Good question. I'm sorry, I missed the name, Kirst. The Tundi left Tumba, Sun Farmer. Tundi left Tumba when he was about a year old, actually. I don't think he was more than that. So it would have been 11 months ago. And he'll be 2 next year. He'll be 2 next month. So yeah, round about a year, which was early. There she is. You can see her there. Well, you can't. I can. She's just popping out now. We're going to go through this. Where did we come out? I think it was here, actually, because there's a very nasty... There she is. I'm going to go round this way. See if we can get down this way and get a shot of her having a drink. There she comes. I'm not sure we'll get round this way, but we can certainly get her having a drink. I hope. Can we? Oh, no. No, we can't. No. Dash. I forgot about this little headland. Let's get up and around. Sorry about this, everybody. We'll get there in the end. She's drinking, is she? Senzo says she's drinking. Yeah, Oren, absolutely. Scavengers could very easily take that meal while she's away. And they may well try. There she is. There we go. Should give us a nice view of her. How's that, Senzo? Huh? Animal is now at the northern side of the waterhole. Yeah, there are two. You'd be the third. I'll move out for the third station. So we might have to move out, but that doesn't worry me because it's getting dark anyway. That's very, very pretty. It makes me happy to see. Does it make you happy to see, Senzo? Beautiful. She's not an ugly cat, this. I don't think anyone accused her of that ever. Stunning. All right, now I'm not sure how long we're going to have here. It won't be for too long because there are people closing in here. Oh, you know what? We're actually going to be okay because they can only send 2 Buffelshoek vehicles in here at a time. So we actually should be all right. I'm also not too worried about staying here a little longer than I might otherwise, simply because the Buffelshoek guys did have another leopard sighting today. Michelle, you say lots of screenshots for your computer now? Yeah, she's doing a great job of giving us some beautiful screenshots, or illegal pictures in my case, which I'm not taking in my Senzo. Alright, we're going to head across now to Stivovo, who has got the herd.
I have indeed managed to find... Where did you go, Ferg? Ferg? Oh, there we go. I was wondering what Ferg was doing. I suddenly looked back at the screen and the herd was gone. But here they come. The herd is coming one at a time past the Shidulu termite mound. And here we go. 3, 2, 1. There they are. There's the other one. 2 of the youngsters there. It is a magic trick. We are full of them today. There's another youngster. A little bit smaller than the other 2. They're very fluffy and cute. And here comes the dominant male at the back. Not that one. There we go. There's the big boy. He is the territorial winner, the holder of this domain, this wildebeest kingdom paradise up here on the area of quarantine, the open area south of our camp. And it is a beautiful sunset in the background. The sun has just dipped below the horizon. And he's doing everything he can to keep this herd safe and within his domain. He's doing a little prowl. I wouldn't be surprised if he does a little bit of a territorial display at some point. Maybe rubs a face or on a branch, or maybe defecates and rolls in some urine. You know, as you do. It's what you do just before, as the sun sets. Okay, looks back at them. Come on then, everybody. It's also, I wouldn't be surprised if the whole herd moves down towards Vuatela watering hole for a drink before darkness. They all seem to be following his lead. Marcy, what? I don't know what happened this morning. Okay, Ferg's telling me about it. Ferg's telling me about it, that the wildebeest were going absolutely crazy. That is always funny to watch, and hence the name of wildebeest. The beest is a cow, and the wilde means wild. So I have no doubt these guys are going to go down. Their intentions are clear. They're going to go down to the watering hole, it appears. So I might try to cut them off and get them coming down to drink there, and maybe Tingana will come and join us there as well. You know, he likes to come down. Let's move around, shall we, Fergus? The intention of them is clear. They're either going to stop right there in the open and have a little chill session, or they're going to go and fill their bellies with water, because after a day of feeding this very dry grass, it's essential to drink water. Okay, well, we're just going to stay with these wildebeest and see exactly what it is that they get up to.
Hello everybody from the Jessamine County Public Library, the Paul Sawyer Public Library and the Oldham County Public Library. It's wonderful to have you here. That is a beautiful leopard. Her name is Tundi. My name is James Hendry. Senzel's on camera and we are very, very lucky to have that cat with us here. Please feel free to ask us any questions that you would like to. You can do that. I'm sure you have teachers, I think, with you. They will ask the questions for you, so you just send your questions to them and they will answer any questions that you have. We're going to try and follow her. We won't follow her for too long because it's getting dark here in South Africa. That's where we are. It's the middle of winter. It doesn't get very cold here, but it is the middle of winter. And so we're going to follow her until it gets a little bit darker, and then we'll stop following her because she's going to fetch her baby, we think, and we don't want to put any false or spotlight on her or her little baby. Her little baby's in here somewhere. We don't know exactly where yet. There's Tundi. We saw her baby here this morning, which was very special. There she goes. She's just moving through this thick stuff here. I'll stop for a second and we'll get another view of her just walking through the bush there. There she goes. Isn't she beautiful? She's about the size of a very large dog, weighs about 43 kilograms probably, which is round about 90 pounds. Charlie, yes, leopards can swim extremely well. You saw her walking next to some water there. They don't swim unless they have to. So if she doesn't have to cross a river or something like that, then she won't swim. But they can swim very well. And I suspect, Charlie, that you have seen some pictures or some video of jaguars in South America swimming. They are very, very good swimmers. There's the leopard. She's going to come out onto the road now. Here she comes. Isn't that nice? Now, I think she's very close to her youngster here. Her youngster's just 8 months old. Carry on going. And soon she'll start to call. She'll make a calling noise, a chuffing noise. And that will hopefully bring the youngster. She's running. Senzo, who's on camera, says she moved a little bit faster. There she is. Let's watch her carefully and see when she starts to call. Now, it's getting a little bit later in the day. It's going to be dark in about 20 minutes. And Hannah, it's around about this time of the day that you'll find these animals start to get the most active. It's almost always at dawn and at dusk. And we call that crepuscular. There we go. And I'm just going to let this person behind us have a turn in front. She's going to start calling now. Alrighty, now I'm not the only one out here. I've got my friend Steve around, and he has got another fascinating animal.
Hello, boys and girls. We've got the wildebeest, and they are running around. They are moving down towards a watering hole to go and get something to drink, and they started behaving very strangely there. We're going to move up a little bit and see if we can catch up with them. We know where they're going, so we'll get another view of them. There they go. A nice herd. Nice family. Betsy, you want to know if wildebeest can run fast? Yes, they can run very fast. I'm trying to think, probably in the region of about maybe 30 to 40 miles an hour, I would assume, maybe 30 miles an hour. So it's not just the speed at which they run, it's how long they can run like that for. They can run for a very long distance like that, constantly, like a marathon runner. That is where the benefit comes in. They're not very quick in a short distance. That's where the predators come in. Lions and leopards and cheetah are very quick over a short distance, but animals like the wildebeest, they like to keep an eye out, and if they see a predator, well, they can just run away at a nice distance, nice speed. Okay, well, we're going to just move down here to the watering hole. But first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Steve Falconbridge. I'm joined by Fergus on camera. Welcome to all of you over in the States for the school drives. We're going to move down there. Don't forget to send through your questions with your teacher. We're going to move down there. There's some other animals behaving very strangely. Let's go see if we can get a look at them up close. Sorry, Kirst, I didn't get the full question there. Rex, very good question. You want to know, how do wildebeest communicate to each other? Well, first of all, on the side of the road here is a pile of poo. This is a wildebeest midden, and there is the dung, and you see those lines in the middle. That is the scratching that the male does. And so first of all, a male will have an area, and he will do lots of this in the area, and the number one communication they have is smell. They like to smell. This is my area. He'll roll in his own urine and in his own poo, and then he'll rub himself against all the ladies and against the youngsters to basically say, you are mine. But then also, their second communication is to stand very tall, and they look at each other, and that's how they communicate. Look how big I am. And then the third one is to make the noise. That's where the name gnu comes from. If you've heard of a gnu, that is the other name for a wildebeest is a gnu, and they go gnu, gnu. It sounds quite funny, actually, when they say it. And maybe we'll hear them doing it when we get down there. Charlie, yes, indeed. You want to know if they fight? They do indeed fight. Well, before we move on, we've just got a couple in parlour here on the right. Let's have a look. Charlie, wildebeest most certainly do fight. Not all the time, though. The reason why they like to roll in their dung and also to stand very, very tall is to show the others how big they are so that they don't have to fight. So that's the main reason. But then if they do fight, it can be quite an aggressive affair. But what we are seeing there is an impala, a family of impala. You can see the females there with no horns, and that first guy we saw with the horns. And the males will use those for fighting as well over the females. They do lots more fighting than the wildebeest do, and instead of fighting right now, he's just having a little bit of grass to eat. Well, anyway, we're not the only two, James and myself out. We have another friend, a lady this time, who would also like to say good afternoon.
Hello, everybody. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Sebastian, and I'm very excited to have you join us, well, out in my safari tent. So I'm going to show you the outside before I can show you the inside. Firstly, isn't this a great garden? It's not a garden, it's a big old game reserve here in South Africa called the Sabi Sand. I'm not sure if James has already told you about that, but we're in a very, very special area known as the Greater Kruger. Anyways, so you can see we're in the wilderness, and this tent is basically in the middle of nowhere. Now, I've got something really exciting for you. I'm going to whistle a call for you, and I'm hoping this bird is going to come flying to me, and you won't believe it. I've spotted a really little owl. So come stand here with me, and then I'm going to show you, Seb, that big marula tree. You see that little, looks like a little Christmas decoration. Now, it's quite far away and it is getting dark, but let me see if I can call it with a whistle. I was doing that yesterday. That's the sound that bird makes. And one flew straight over the top of my head. Oh, let's very quickly go to James.
Look at this, we've got them both. The mum has fetched the little cub. And look how happy they both are to see each other. Isn't that special? That's very, very special to see, everyone. We don't see this every day. Oh, wow. And if this is your first safari, you are very, very lucky indeed to be seeing this. That's Thandi. There's the mum, she's 12 years old, and that's Tlalamba, which means mischievous. She's a little baby, and she's 8 months old. So she's very young. Harper, they have spots. You can see the beautiful colours blend very nicely in to the grass here. Now, normally leopards hunt in thick bush, and when they're in thick bush and the sun is shining through the leaves, it leaves what we call a dappled pattern of light on the ground. So it leaves little shadows and little patches of sunlight. And if a leopard is walking through that thick bush like that, then it's very difficult for anything else to see the leopard. Okay, now they've turned round, and so they'll probably head back towards the kill. We're just going to sit very still, because sometimes Tandi doesn't like us when we're very close by, but she's coming close to us, so it's not our fault. We're going to be very quiet. Sit still, Sinzel. Just sit still, Sinzel. We're just going to sit very quietly. That was a very, very special sighting. Okay, let's carry on. Patty, leopards don't have to drink. Sometimes they drink, but they don't have to drink. Now, I just need to quickly get on the radio to help somebody. Go ahead. All right. I think we're going to leave the sighting, everybody, because you can see it's getting dark. That's a young leopard cub, and she's going to go off to a kill now, and we don't want to disturb her at all. Okay, let's go back to Taylor. I'm not sure if she's in the tent or not, but soon she will be.
I am in the tent, but we're outside the tent at the same time, James. Very nice that Tlalamba has joined back with Mom again. We're still looking at our little owl who's sitting up there. Now, you're very, very lucky to see one of these owls. They are so small, they're about half the size of your ruler. Probably even a little bit less than that. So it's not a very big bird at all. And there are lots of them around at the moment, and they're one of my favorite little creatures. Should I call it once more and see if we can get it to work? Is it looking at me when I do it? Not really.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So I'm getting its attention. It's definitely curious. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to invite it over for a cup of tea. But I don't know if these little pearl-spotted owlets drink tea, so we'll have to wait and see till it gets to the side. And hopefully it is going to fly on over here. But they normally come out at about this time of the day, and they'll be looking for all sorts of things. At the moment, there's lots of little rats and mice running around, so I bet that that's what they're going for. And I reckon even some of those rats and mice are probably the same size as the owl. Not their body, but with their long tails, because even such a small bird like that can actually eat something quite big. Now, we've got lots and lots of different skulls around outside here. We will go inside in a minute. It looks a bit like a graveyard, don't you think? This is a giraffe. Kaylee, now, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to tell you how many people work here. So this reserve that we are driving around, and excuse my calculations here, but it's probably about 2,500 acres of land or so where we can drive on. But the animals, there's no fences, so they can just go wherever they want. So essentially, the animals have got over 8.5 million acres of land to move around on. So that's how big the Greater Kruger is. So we're in the Sabi Sand on Djuma Private Game Reserve. So that measurement I gave you before is just here for sort of Djuma. And then there's sort of rules and regulations. We can only drive in certain areas. But like I said, the animals can go wherever they like, which is awesome. So really, really great. Next time you see me, though, I'm going to introduce you and show you all the cool things inside this tent. And, well, I've got a skull of the animal that Steve's looking at.
Lots of skulls in the tent there. Well done, Taylor. Well, the wildebeest came down to the water to have a little drink, and I timed them. They didn't even drink for a minute. There's a very short space of time when you're an animal that big, isn't it? And then straight back to feeding on the grass. Look how well adapted they are. Long, long necks. Down they go. And they're just feeding now, putting in as much of that vegetation as they can into their mouth at one time and into their belly. Hello, Mercy. You want to know how long their horns are? Well, I'm trying to think now. I've never thought about it. Maybe we should ask Taylor to measure it when she's in the tent. I've never measured horns of a wildebeest before. Do you have an answer, Ferg? I don't have an answer for you, I'm afraid, but I mean, Taylor's in the tent. I'm sure she'll be able to measure it. She's probably listening to us right now, so I've no doubt she'll be able to give you the answer to that question. But you see how they're busy walking in sort of a group, sort of unit together. That's for safety, really. Hanging out in a herd is very important unless you want to get eaten. Hello, Lizzie and Ben. You want to know how common wildebeest are in this area? And they used to be a lot more common, I suppose. But the Kruger Park, the Great Kruger National Park, has changed somewhat in a very long time. And they used to migrate from here all the way up into the mountains to the west. But that doesn't happen anymore, not like up in the Masai Mara in Kenya, where they move huge distances. So we do see them, but they're like sort of open clearing areas. And we do find a few of those around, but there's not too many of them anymore. There's lots and lots of bushes these days. Not so much grass as there used to be. Moses, you want to know if it's possible to ride a wildebeest. Well, I think it probably could be possible, but I think you'd hurt yourself if you tried. They are very wild, and you wouldn't be able to get close enough to one. And I suppose if you had a relaxed, tame one, I think it would be possible to ride one, but they don't run with any sort of nice sort of gait, you know, not like a horse. When they run like a bucking bronco with their back legs kicking out at the back. So I have no doubt if you jumped on the back of one, you'd probably land on your bottom or on your head. But it's a funny thing to think about, isn't it? They are very beautiful animals. And the one you see on the right of the screen is a youngster who was only born in December. And the one on the left is an adult, much bigger. You can see by the horns, much smaller at the moment. Actually, that one we were looking at is a 1-year-old. He was born the December before. There, now he's walking past youngsters that were born just... No, same size. I'm getting very confused. Anyway, it must be because it's getting dark. Well, Taylor McCurdy has got the lights on. She's in the tent, and hopefully she can tell you how long the horns of a wildebeest are.
Unfortunately, Steve, I can't because I don't have anything to measure it with. I have no measuring tape, I have no string, I've got no ruler, I've got no anything. But anyway, here's a wildebeest skull hanging. We've tied it. Of course, this one is no longer alive anymore, and most of the skulls in here have actually been handpicked from the bush. Some of them, though, are actually not even real. They're replicas of skulls because sometimes it's very difficult to find them. But I'm going to show you in comparison. So here we have a fully grown wildebeest, and I'm going to say that this is probably a bull. And the reason why I think it's a bull, because the horns are quite big here, whereas a female's horns are very, very thin. Now have a look just off to the right. Look at this big skull all the way up top. This is a massive one. Now this is from an African or Cape buffalo, and it's much, much, much bigger than the wildebeest, and even bigger horns. So again, with a buffalo bulls, that's what we call a male buffalo, the boss, so that's this sort of helmet of horns that it has over here, is much broader, and they almost meet, whereas a female buffalo's horns, again, a little bit further apart and not as big as this. And they don't need those big horns. They do need them for a bit of protection, but the reason why the boys have this big helmet and this protection over here is because the males will fight that way. They'll headbutt one another, and it's basically like two cars hitting each other. It's like a big car crash. Now, Rotsy, you've asked if something happens to their horns, can they grow new ones? And no, they can't. So it's not like a deer that has antlers that are shed annually. These guys get one set of horns for their whole life, and the same thing goes for even this impala over here, which is light enough that I can hold. So this is a skull from an impala, and what we often see, more common, is impala with one horns. So what will happen is that the males will fight, and if one horn breaks off, that's it. Unfortunately, it's stuck like that, and it will be called one horn shorn. All the animals out here that tend to snap a horn for some reason get called one horn shorn, and most of the time it's the boys that have the horns, although there are some animals out there, some species of antelope, where both male and female have horns. Except, for example, the wildebeest and the buffalo. Both the boys and the girls have horns. The impala, however, just the boys. Now, Betsy, yes, typically horns are going to be nice and sharp because it's a weapon. It's a way that an animal will protect itself. So if I turn it towards you, there you go, you can sort of see it a little bit better. You see that? So if I just touch it over here, it's not too bad. That would hurt you. That would definitely stab you. Now, an impala, of course, maybe not going to do too much damage to a lion, although it can still hurt it. However, I'm going to put Ivan the impala back up here. The buffalo horns, it's a bit dark outside, and this is too heavy for me to bring down, unfortunately. Buffaloes are preyed on by lions all the time, and in this area the lions are actually specialists at killing buffalo, so they use their horns a lot. But as the buffalo bulls and the cows get older and older, their horns aren't as sharp anymore, so they become quite blunt. But buffalo can kill lots and lots of lions all the time, because if a lion jumps on the buffalo and the buffalo manages to lift its head up like that, so it'll try and hook into the lion and then toss it up, because they're really strong creatures, that can stab a lion. It can go through into the heart and go into the lungs. It can be really, really quite dangerous. And then the other thing that they'll do with these big horns is they'll also push down, so they'll crush things, which is quite crazy and quite scary. So you've got to be careful. Even though they just eat grass and leaves, they can still be very, very dangerous to you and I and the other predators out there. Now, I'm not sure where I'm sending you to, but I'm sure you'll have a blast either way.
A bunny blast indeed. We found a pair of scrub hares that look like they're about to have a boxing match, boys and girls. Now, these scrub hares are not rabbits. They're very similar to rabbits, but they're not rabbits. But they live out here, and they actually like to hide underneath the bushes during the day. Whoopsie, there we go. And they come out at night, and they come out and they do some ablutions. They'll wash their face and clean themselves, and there we go, a little bit of rolling in the dirt. This is marvelous. And the first thing that they do when they wake up is that they eat their poo. Isn't that interesting? Waking up in the evening, they will eat the poo that they deposited last night, because their tummy is not very good at digesting what they had yesterday, so they're basically just eating it twice. It's quite interesting for an animal to do that. And then they'll move around, jumping around at night and feeding on grass, just like the wildebeest are doing, except they do it at night. Specifically at night, they don't come out during the day. And those really big ears help to hear anything trying to sneak up on them. Hello, Grace. You want to know what the most rare animal is to see around here? Well, it would most certainly be a pangolin. Now, I will try and find a picture for you, but want to just inform you as well that we've got a very special light on this camera. There's still a little bit of light, though, but we've got a light that will enable us to see in the darkness, because probably where you are, it is getting quite, it's the middle of the day or wherever. With us, the sun has set, and it's getting very dark. And so we've got a very special camera that allows us to see in the darkness, and that's why it might look a little bit black and white for you on the screen. I'm going to try to find this animal. The most rare animal that you find around here is the pangolin, which is kind of like the armadillo that you get in America. A little bit different, but here he is here. Only one picture of him. There we go. He rolls up into a little ball to protect himself. And he feeds exclusively on ants and termites. The very long face. He's got a very long tongue that attaches all the way to the back on his hip joint, rib area. The tongue goes all the way back into there and out again. Can you imagine that? Wow, very interesting. And they eat only ants and termites. And if something tries to catch them, they'll roll into a ball to protect themselves. Very, very cool. Thanks, Ferg. Our scrub hares are still here. There they are. Kate, I suppose scrub hares and jackrabbits are quite similar. I've never seen a jackrabbit before. But the major difference between rabbits and hares is, there we go. I mean, they might look slightly different, but hares, when they are born, the mother will give birth to them sort of just underneath the bush, and that's where they live. Oh, just to the right, Ferg. You missed him. You missed him. There we go. And it's able to follow mum around from quite early on. So it's quite developed as a baby, whereas rabbits, they have to go into holes in the ground, and when they're born, they are blind, they are naked, and they're not able to follow mum for quite some time until they obviously get a little bit bigger and stronger. So that is the major difference between hares and rabbits, although a lot of what they do on the ground with their movement and their feeding, their eating, might be very similar. Marley, their teeth are pretty sharp. They would gnaw on a carrot quite strongly, and I suppose if you stuck your finger in there, it could be quite painful. But that's what they do. They've got top and bottom teeth, and they just gnaw. That's exactly what the teeth are for. So I suppose they are pretty sharp. Probably about as sharp as our teeth, though, I suppose. Okay, well, we're going to move on from here. Those scrub hares have moved off. And I've got a spotlight because that's what we do out here. We look for animals at night with the spotlight, and then because we've got a special lens on our camera, we can look at them without the light. But for me to find them, I need this thing, because I'm not able to see at night. Are any of you able to see at night? Do you eat your carrots? When I was young, I used to eat so many carrots because people told me it would help you see in the darkness. So I ate all the carrots I could. I don't know if it helped, because I still can't see in the dark. Not like the scrub hares can. Okay, well, we're going to carry on, see what we can find. There were reports of a male leopard sort of further north from where we are now. We're going to go see if maybe he wakes up and comes towards us. But in the meantime, let's go back over to James.
Well, we are now driving in the darkness, as you can see. We have our spotlight out. We're hoping to find a few things. If we do see anything exciting, what we'll do is probably turn the spotlight off and use what we call infrared, which is a very special kind of a light that allows us to see special things. Emma, we do live on the reserve. That's absolutely right. We can't go anywhere, and so it's a very pleasant place to live. We live in a little village, I suppose you could call it. And we live here, and then we live normally for about 6 weeks of work, and then we go away for 2 weeks and see our families and go and eat pizza and go to the movies and that sort of thing. Nolan, being a safari guide is a career. So some people will be a safari guide for the rest of their lives. And although I guess many people would think that being a safari guide isn't a real job, it is a real job, and it's one of the most fun jobs you can have. We haven't managed to find any eyes of animals just yet. Lizzie, Jack and Ben, my very favorite animal on safari is something called a wild dog. And that is like a wolf that lives in Africa. It's probably a little bit prettier than a wolf, actually. It's brown and black and white with huge big ears that look like dinner plates. A little bit like Mickey Mouse's ears. And I like them because they're good to each other. They're very kind to each other. They look after their sick ones, and they look after their old ones. They don't just leave them to die, which is what lions do. It's a relatively warm night for the middle of winter, which is quite nice. And so we can drive around without being too cold and having our heads in woolly hats and our bodies in big fat jackets. That's always quite nice. See what happens down this road. Ooh, what's that? Is there anything in here? No, I can't see anything there. We sometimes look for chameleons, which are small reptiles. You can often spot them in the trees. Oh, now something very special Taylor's got in her tent. It'll show you something very small.
Right, look how cool this is. Now, what you're looking at, it actually looks a bit like a spaceship. Sebastian, the way you framed that up. But in fact, it is a stick and, well, a small plant there. And those are eggs. Those are little eggs. I don't know where they're from, though. Shall we have a look on the microscope? Are you ready for this? Ah, amazing. Perfect timing. Right. So I'm going to use a porcupine quill, which I'll show you next to point at. Now, you can see, I've not actually disturbed this. Oh, there's the quill. I was trying to find it. That's the quill that you can see. I've not actually disturbed any of these eggs because they've all hatched. You can see the little openings on them. Let's see if I can change it up just a little bit and see if I can change the focus. There we go. That's a bit better. And I saw these about 2 weeks ago on this very same branch, and I went walking today, so I was out walking a little bit earlier, but then it got too dark, so I thought, okay, you know what, I want to investigate these and I want to bring them back to camp and get everybody's advice as to what they think they are. Now, when we first saw all these eggs, they were next to a caterpillar, but they were not on a caterpillar. And there's no exoskeleton or anything like that. There's no skin or underneath all these eggs. It seems like they the eggs were actually laid onto the branch. Now, there are many different things that it could be. It could be from a wasp. Some of the suggestions we had the last time that it was perhaps from a parasitic wasp. And what those parasitic wasps will do is they lay their eggs on something like a caterpillar or a beetle, and then basically once they hatch, they eat the caterpillar or the worm. How scary is that? Isn't that crazy? There's also another wasp called a spider hunting wasp that does that, and it goes after spiders, and then it paralyzes it so it doesn't kill its prey, and then it takes it underground and lays an egg in there, and then the egg will hatch and eat the spider. So it has dinner, and then it comes out as a fully grown wasp. But there was also an ant running around here, and I don't know what the ant was doing, but I'm still uncertain as to what these eggs are. They could be from some kind of wasp, but I don't think it was a parasitic wasp, because like I said, there's no remains, there's no any indication that these things were laid on an animal. They all joined onto this very branch. So I'm going to take it out now. Can you come back to me, please? Pretty please. Wonderful. Let me pull this out. So there we go. You can see. So like I said, it's empty now. Oh, Sebastian, I found our spider. There's the spider. Put it under the microscope, says Sebastian. We're putting it under the microscope again, Chris. Do you mind if I do that? Okay, right. I'm going to try. You have to bear with me now. I'm not very good at this. James, this is James's house here. He likes it in the tent. I'm going to try and place it carefully. Oh, no, not like that. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. I need to put the microscope up to see. See, the problem is these branches. So let me break some of these here so that it can sit flat. Betsy, I absolutely love being a safari guide. It's my favorite thing. Okay, can we go to the microscope very quickly? Here we go. It's the best job in the whole world. How cool is this? So not only do I get to drive those cool safari cars around like you saw James, and I get to go on bushwalks too. Now, this is awesome. I first thought when I found this spider that it was called a sack spider, but I don't think it is. So sack spiders are normally cream in color, and then they're sort of their face, if you will, where they're... What is wrong with me? I can't think of any more words today. Anyway, where their mouth is, basically is quite black, but it's not a sack spider because it's got this other marking on its back. So I don't actually know what it is, but it's really small. I'm going to put the porcupine quill here, and you can sort of see that's really fine. So that's tiny. That little spider is maybe like 3 little pinheads put together. Now, again, I don't know what it's doing on these eggs. I don't know if it's maybe using it as a shelter now, because any little creature could go and live in there. There was also, like I said, there was an ant running around at the moment. So, you know the saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure? The same thing applies for all of these animals out here. So, We're going to probably come back to me now. There we go. So how crazy is that? They could be using it as a house. Maybe it's going around trying to find something to eat. I haven't really got a clue, but it's all very, very interesting. And that's why it's so exciting being a safari guide, because you find out all these new things that you probably would never have known of. Anyways, we're going to carry on sifting through the tent to see what else we can find. Let's go see if Steve has found any nocturnal critters.
Yes, well, thanks, Taylor. Lovely you can show the kids spiders under the microscope. That's very interesting. Even for me, I love watching those things, how close you can get to them. All those little beady eyes of theirs. Well, we haven't seen anything yet. We've heard a couple of night sounds, but nothing of too much interest. What's very important out here in the savannah, if you want to find animals, sometimes you have to turn off the vehicle. Turn off the vehicle. And I wonder if you can do this. We're all going to have a listen. We're going to turn off all the lights, put our hands on our ears like this, just like a kudu. We're going to listen to the sounds. Very quiet. And every now and again you hear the call of a leopard. Sam, we do have hippos around. The hippos are in a watering hole down towards the south. We didn't get there this afternoon. James was in a watering hole where we normally find a hippopotamus. I don't think he was there this afternoon. I think he's gone away for the weekend. But yes, there are definitely hippos in around here. And they like to come out like the scrub hare at night to feed. And also, they feed on grass. And lots of grass with their very big mouth. They'll just walk through an area like this and just munch everything up. Sometimes even little birds, I believe. I'm only joking. I'm not sure if they've ever eaten any birds. But if you've got a big mouth like a hippo, a hungry hippo, very good chance you could eat something you didn't want to. Okay, we're going to continue on searching in the darkness for anything. And we'll come right back if we have anything special. Let's go see what James is up to.
Well, there's some eyes that I can see through there. There, if we just look through, oh shame, it's a little duiker. It's a little antelope, and we don't shine on the antelope at night because it disturbs them much more than it would disturb an animal that was active during the daytime, so we leave them alone. Marley, that's a very sensitive question you've asked about whether or not there is a vet in this area. When the animals get sick, there's quite a special little thing there called a scrub hare. Can you see it there, Senzo? There we go. Look, that's a little scrub hare. Now, I know you saw one with Steve, but that's all we've got at the moment. Marley, there is no vet out here. If an animal gets very seriously injured, for example, if it breaks its leg or something like that, and we find it, well, then sometimes we will get a vet in to help it, especially if it's an animal that's very rare, like a cheetah or a wild dog. But you know what? Very few animals here get sick. And one of the main reasons that human beings get sick as often as we do, and why we need so many doctors, is because we live in very big groups. And that means that when we have a disease, a cold or a flu or something like that, everyone gets it. Whereas if you live in a small group, like, for example, these hares live in a very small group, well, the chances of all those germs passing between the hares is just much smaller. And the other thing, of course, is that we eat quite badly and we live in polluted places. So that makes us sick. Whereas this hare lives in a pristine wilderness area, which means that he's eating all of the things that he's supposed to eat that are good for him. And he's cleaning himself there. And he doesn't live with any pollution or noise or iPads and phones and things that make us sick. Well, Kylie, that is an excellent question about the difference between what must look exactly like a rabbit to you and what is in fact a scrub hare. They're very similar. They're part of the same family. But the rabbits have much longer back legs than they do front legs, and that's because they hop and they don't run. So this is a hare, and it will run rather than hop. And also, it doesn't live in a hole. It doesn't live in a burrow, this thing. It lives in what we call a form, which is a sort of nest of twigs and grass underneath a bush. So those are two of the main differences that we have between rabbits and hares. Isn't he lovely? All right, let's carry on from here. He can hardly believe that we're watching him because, of course, that light is so clever. Now, we're looking for all sorts of things out here. And specifically, we'll be looking for animals active at night, like civets, which look like raccoons, basically, which look like cats with long tails. White-tailed mongoose, which are, well, they only look like white-tailed mongoose, really. I suppose they look a little bit like a weasel with a big long tail. Then we might find leopards and lions. They like to be active in the night time, so that would be good. Maybe hyenas, bush babies, which look like little bears, but they're actually closely related to monkeys. We might find them in the trees. Chameleons, like I said, those special reptiles that change colour. African wildcats, which look like house cats, but they've got much longer legs, and they're slightly reddish legs. Servals, which look like miniature leopards. What else would we find? Caracals, maybe. Obviously the scrub hares, which we've seen before. So there are lots of creatures that do hang out at night. We might even find small things like scorpions and snakes even. In winter you'll find that we find much less than we do in summertime. In summertime, when there's rain, well, there are lots of things around. Lots and lots of insects. The scorpions come out, the spiders come out. And none of them are harmful to us, but we do find them. Alrighty, I'm going to head for home now and hand you over, I forget to who, I think probably Steve, to say goodbye.
Yeah, well, thanks, Taylor. We are slowly moving back on home ourselves. We were just having a look in the drainage line over here. There was something moving around, but it's moved off. So let's continue on, shall we, Fergus? On we go. Something moved off. I think it was a very small little animal. We didn't really get a good look. But we'll continue looking. Charter, hello. You want to know if I've ever been chased by a lion? Well, Charter, the most important thing about it being out here is if something does decide to run at you, don't ever run away. So I've been run at by lions. Yes, most definitely they run at me. But because I stand up strong and tall and I sometimes say things to the lion quite loudly, then in most of the time they have turned around and run away themselves or stopped and moved back. So yes, lions have run at me before, but thankfully I didn't run away and they didn't chase me, which is very important because cats like to chase. So whatever you do out here, never, ever, ever run. Very important. Very, very important. And we might see a lion out here. You never know. There could be one just walking around, just like the other animals we've been talking about. They like to come out in the night time, the leopards and the lions, and the porcupines as well. They like to walk around at night and do their feeding and their eating when it's a little bit cooler. And also because the darkness helps for the animals to sort of not see exactly what's going on. So it makes it easier for the lions and the leopards to catch them. It's also why we don't do any walking. It's also why we don't do any walking during the day or during the night. Okay, well, Fergus, we'll stop here for our goodbyes, shall we? Well, it has been a marvellous afternoon. Thank you for joining us, everybody, and especially to the schools. I must, have to refresh a little bit over here. thank you for joining us this afternoon, Jessamine Country Public, Paul Sawyer Public and Oldham Country. It's been awesome for your questions and your interaction, and we hope to see you again soon next time. Have a beautiful, beautiful day.